Chapter 162, Ambition. The second level of the mystery of the wind of all things was clearly far more potent than the first levels of the mysteries of water and fire. Wind, after all, was in some ways a lower manifestation of space. Mastering it made comprehension of the mystery of space that much easier. Where the mystery of life that Lin Chuan had cultivated excelled in support but lacked raw offensive power, the mystery of wind of all things was the opposite. It could be molded into precise attacks or into powerful battlefield assistance. Better yet, it could be combined with the mysteries of water and fire. The force unleashed by such a fusion would be terrifying. In his memory lingered a familiar precedent. The Son of Destiny, in another world, had once combined water, fire, and wind perfectly and broken through to an extreme penetration truth born of their fusion. In the Snow Eagle Lord's world, that truth had manifested as materialized law. Lin Chuan didn't know how far the laws would go if the mysteries he was learning reached their ends, only that the direction felt right. He had practiced archery and spearmanship all his life. Extreme penetration seemed tailor-made for him. Of course, cultivation was intensely personal. It was the product of a practitioner's wisdom, insight, and life experience. No one could guarantee he would fuse the three mysteries into something new. But even if he didn't, the sheer power of their combination would be a huge gain. "Take your time," he told himself with restrained confidence. "If others have done it, there's no reason I can't." He wondered how Lingling's assessment had gone. He had been alone in the heart of Storm Canyon, training day and night. Now that he had broken through the second level of the mystery of wind of all things, his session was over. He rose slowly to his feet. The chaotic hurricane that had raged around him no longer hindered him. The blessing of wind made his movements noticeably faster. Transparent afterimages shimmered and dispersed as he moved, and within a few breaths he reached the mouth of the canyon. Two figures came into view. The first was familiar and impossible to mistake. Lingling stood against the hurricane, forcing her way forward step by step. Each time the wind's razor blade struck her, she slipped back half a pace, but she clenched her teeth and kept pushing. The girl looked thinner. Her pale skin had warmed to a sun-kissed wheat color. Her reserved, icy temperament had softened and been replaced by a fierce, combative presence. She no longer felt like the fragile auxiliary soul master she had once been. She carried herself like a true combat soul master. "She's grown up," Lin Chuan thought, his eyes wet with a mixture of relief and pride. Lingling's endurance and willingness to suffer through the ordeal proved he had not been mistaken in her potential. Then, with a flash between her brows, the final mark ignited and she was sent flying out of the canyon. The fifth test of the hurricane body training was complete. Lingling staggered to the ground, but instead of the imagined collapse into pain, she felt herself fall into a warm, sustaining embrace. Raising her head with difficulty, she saw Lin Chuan's gentle smile. "Thank you for your hard work, Lingling. Get some rest," he said, his face soft. Lin Chuan gathered life energy and poured it into her. The vitality washed over her, healing physical fatigue and easing pain. Mental exhaustion, however, remained. The first words that slipped from her lips when she felt steadier were still instinctive. "Brother Chuan, I succeeded." He reached out and stroked her cheek. "I saw it all, Lingling. You did amazing." Her smile shone like sunlight. That look on her face was sweeter than any pleasure he had known. A moment later, the mark between their brows flashed and a voice, low and majestic, resounded in their minds, bearing the assessment results. To Lingling, perseverance. Completing the assessment 2 months ahead of schedule, while in the body of an auxiliary soulmaster, has earned the recognition of the goddess of life. The fifth test is concluded. Reward: a 2-level increase in soul power, all existing soul rings extended by 5,000 years of potency, a 15% increase in life affinity, bringing total life affinity to 50%, and an additional God-given soul ring. A turquoise glow enveloped Ye Lingling. Through meditation, she had been level 68. The reward thrust her directly to level 70. With one more soul ring, she would reach Soul Saint, the pivotal threshold where mastering the true body of her martial soul would make her attributes soar. A beam of light transformed into a small pill bead and floated to the ground at her feet. More astonishingly, the extra God-given soul ring appeared as part of her reward. Lingling tucked the bead away, smiling with quiet satisfaction. The voice continued, addressing Lin Chuan, exceeding the assessment task and gaining the recognition of the goddess of life and the god of earth. Assessment result, flawless. Reward, 2-level increase in soul power and a God-given soul ring. He felt the vitality of heaven and earth surge toward him and greedily absorbed it like a sponge. The raw energy converted directly into his own soul power. Level 88, level 89, level 90. Even though he had been focusing almost entirely on perceiving wind's power and had practiced little with his soul power itself, those two gifted levels had pushed him to the 90th level. He was now only one soul ring away from becoming a titled Douluo. I didn't expect that. Another God-given soul ring? Lin Chuan said softly, surprised. A radiant bead rushed toward him. He pinched it between his fingertips and turned it over, thinking. The age of a God-given soul ring of that quality was easily more than 200,000 years. Absorbing it would bring enormous soul power feedback. After formally breaking through to titled Douluo, his soul power would likely leap several levels, possibly more than the direct gain from the ring itself. Soul skills were secondary to such a leap. Yet for raw soul power, there were two soul beasts in Douluo Continent that outshone most others. The deep-sea demon whale king and the Tianmeng ice silkworm, whose soul rings neared 1,000,000 years of cultivation. The silver dragon king might also be an option, but that prospect could wait. Keep it for now, he decided, tucking the bead and the God-given ring away. I'll think this through carefully. Chapter 163. Even gods know how the world works. Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling chose not to absorb the God-given soul ring. Let's check the 6th test first, Lin Chuan suggested. Ye Lingling nodded and sank her consciousness into the mark between her eyebrows to communicate with the temple. After a moment, she opened her eyes. The 6th test is to raise my martial soul to the 8th ring, she said. In other words, as soon as I break through Soul Douluo, I'll pass. That's simple enough, Lin Chuan said with relief. He no longer had to worry about any inhuman tortures. His own 5th test was straightforward too. He only had to protect the inheritor of the God of Life until her test finished. So we don't need to stay in the Temple of Life for now. That fit their plan. Although staying in that plane would speed up cultivation, they preferred to return home first. Lin Chuan smiled and suggested quietly, Lingling, then let's go home as we planned. Yi Lingling smiled and agreed. Lin Chuan looked toward the small figure nearby. Xiao Wu, we don't need to remain for the next assessment. We'll be leaving. You'll be the only one here next. Take care. Ah, Xiao Chuan, you and Lingling are leaving? The little rogue rabbit mumbled, reluctant. Over their time together, the three had grown close. If it hadn't been for Ye Lingling helping her recover, Xiao Wu would still be badly injured and in no state to take an assessment. The 100,000-year-old rabbit truly considered Ye Lingling a friend now. She took a deep breath, forced a smile, and said, I can't leave. I still have to finish my assessment here. Xiao Chuan, Lingling, be careful on the road and come back soon. After brief goodbyes, Xiao Wu escorted Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling out of the Lake of Life, watching them go for a long time. Leaving the Xingdou Great Forest was almost effortless. Before returning to Snowfield City, they had to swing by the Earth Temple in the Xingluo Empire to pick up Duguyan. There was no way they would leave separately. Their travel was much faster than before. Lin Chuan's Mystery of the Wind had reached the 2nd level, allowing him to fly and move several times faster than a titled Douluo of agility. As long as he didn't want to die, practically no one could stop them. 2 days later, they arrived above the mountain range where the stone forest teleported. Ignoring the hurricane howl between cliffs, Lin Chuan descended from the air with Ye Lingling cradled in his arms. He focused, and the mark on his forehead lit. The stone pillars and ground patterns of the forest responded in kind, bathing the two in a blinding white light. In another flash, they were gone. When the afterimage faded, they stood inside the familiar rock-walled space of the Earth Temple. Almost immediately, Lin Chuan detected strong auras. Duguyan and Juzu King were here, and much stronger than when he had last seen them. They're in front. Let's go, he said. They walked forward at a calm pace. Perhaps because they were examinees, the stone giant that had appeared before did not challenge them, and they entered the inner area without trouble. Guided by aura traces, they found Dugu Yan and Juju King on a huge stone platform, surrounded by dozens of stone figures launching furious attacks. Each strike made the platform tremble. "Are those all made of stone?" Ye Lingling asked. After her training, she had become very sensitive to the breath of life. These assailants had no life breath at all, clearly not living beings. "They're the assessment constructs used by the Earth Temple," Lin Chuan answered. He took in the two women before him. Time had changed them. Duguyan's long black hair framed a more mature face and a heavier, denser aura. Her limbs were leaner and stronger. Juju King still wore the same cold expression, but her body, hot and perfectly formed, contrasted starkly with her icy face. Lin Chuan caught himself thinking her figure seemed even more striking now. It made sense. She was half a year younger than him. A lot can change in that peak growth period. More important than appearances were their strength levels. From their auras, Lin Chuan estimated Duguyan's soul power around level 67 and Juju Qing's around level 58. He was surprised. When he'd first met Juju King, she had only been level 35. In 2 years, she had shot to 58. She had clearly worked incredibly hard. "Did you suffer some big blow, or did hidden potential get triggered?" Lin Chuan murmured with a soft smile. The stronger they were, the better for those who followed him. About 2 hours later, the marks between their brows flared. All the stone figures froze in place and fell silent, forming statues on the platform. Dugu Yan and Juju King both exhaled with relief. "Looks like their assessment is over. Let's go see them," Ye Lingling said, and they moved forward. Dugu Yan and Juju King opened their eyes, their faces brightening. "Yanzi!" someone called softly from nearby. The familiar voice made Dugu Yan tremble. She spun and saw the one she had missed. Unable to hold back, she rushed forward and flung herself into Lin Chuan's arms, squeezing as if she wanted to fuse with him. Lin Chuan laughed and hugged her back, breathing in her scent mixed with sweat, feeling inexplicably calm. Ye Lingling stood quietly beside them, watching the reunion. "Xiao Chuan." Dugu Yan's voice was soft. "I'm here," Lin Chuan answered. "I just wanted to shout your name." She went on. "Here he is," Lin Chuan teased, playing along. "I missed you." Dugu Yan's voice turned tender. Lin Chuan's eyes softened. He leaned in to whisper near her ear. "I missed you too." Dugu Yan buried her face against his chest, cheeks flushed, calmed by his heartbeat. After a few moments, she smiled coquettishly. "Xiao Chuan, why did you suddenly show up? Lingling, long time no see." Ye Lingling let out a small laugh. "You thought you wouldn't see me either." Dugu Yan feigned offense and reached to tickle Ye Lingling, and the air between them filled with laughter. Lin Chuan felt content. This was a good life. "You two haven't finished talking yet?" Dugu Yan panted slightly from her exertions. "Lingling, didn't you go to take the gods' examinations? Why are you here at the Earth Temple?" "Of course I came to see you," Ye Lingling replied easily. Lin Chuan spoke softly so all could hear. "Lingling and I have temporarily finished our assessment here. We don't need to complete the next test in the Temple of Life right now, so we came to find you before heading back to Snowfield City." Dugu Yan's eyes brightened. "Zhu Qing and I have just finished the 4th test, but we don't know when the 5th will start." She reached up and communicated with the mark between her brows. Then her expression changed to one of puzzlement. "Huh? That's strange. Usually the next test is announced right after the last one. Why isn't it happening now?" Lin Chuan frowned. Even gods could be finicky, it seemed. Just then a voice echoed from the god realm, a string of sneezes. "Achoo! Achoo! Achoo!" The earth god, who watched over this process, had sneezed several times. Lin Chuan couldn't help thinking of the last time something odd had happened and the way the goddess of life had favored certain people. He briefly entertained a mischievous thought about the earth god being persuaded again, but he quickly shook it off. "Well," Lin Chuan said, refocusing, "since the next exam hasn't appeared, we might as well go back. It's been almost 2 years since we left. I want to see how things are in the mainland. I miss my grandfather and everyone else. I don't know what's become of the mainland," Ye Lingling said. They had been gone a long time. The situation in the fiefdoms could have changed. Even Wuhun Palace, still dormant in his memories, might act before long. Better to return and see for themselves. Then let's go now, Lin Chuan decided. He turned toward Zhu Juqing. What about you? Will you stay or come with us to the Tiando Empire? Zhu Juqing answered without hesitation, voice cool but steady. I'll go with you. Lin Chuan nodded. All right, I remember you were in the 3rd purple level exam, so your tests should all be finished, right? Du Guyan cut in, smiling. Xiao Chuan, you guessed wrong. Juqing managed to elevate her exam level on her own, from the 3rd purple level to the 4th black level exam. Really? No wonder, Lin Chuan said, looking at Zhu Juqing with renewed respect. She had always been the hardest worker among them. Her eventual rise to godhood had been the product of both opportunity and unrelenting effort. Let's go together, he added. There wasn't much to prepare. The 4 of them passed back through the stone forest and returned to the world below. On the journey, everyone carried 1,000 unspoken feelings. Zhu Juqing's were the most complicated, while the other 3 were eager to get home and see how the mainland had changed. Chapter 164. This world shouldn't be like this. After they left the mountains, the group stopped in the nearest city to buy a means of travel. They didn't get a carriage for comfort, just 4 horses, and rode out at a crack of speed toward the Tiando Empire. While they rested along the way, Du Guyan suddenly piped up. Xiao Chuan, do you remember the town we passed through when we came here? The question unlocked earlier memories. Lin Chuan nodded. Of course, the wine in that tavern was pretty good. We're heading back toward the Tiando Empire anyway. Why not swing by? I wonder how the girl who worked in that tavern is doing. Fine. Let's go rest there, Lin Chuan agreed. Soul Masters have excellent memories. Despite the time that had passed, they still knew the route. But as they drew closer, something felt off. Everywhere they passed, there were prints, tracks pressed into the earth, many of them, and all leading toward the town. Lin Chuan snatched the reins and brought the horses to an abrupt halt. The others stopped as well. What's wrong? Du Guyan asked. The situation is bad. Lin Chuan shut his eyes, drew a deep breath, and sent a sweep of his mental power outward. Nothing within range escaped his sight. The closer they got to the town, the stronger the incoming impressions became. Fear, despair, pain, greed, madness. He opened his eyes with a flash of anger. Brother Chuan? Ye Lingling called softly. The town ahead is under attack, Lin Chuan said. It's critical. I'll go in first. Yanzi and Lingling, follow behind me. Be careful. Without waiting for a reply, Lin Chuan leaped from his horse and shot forward like a gust of wind. The 3 women realized the gravity of the situation and urged their mounts after him. In a few breaths, Lin Chuan hovered over the town. From above, he saw it had become a living nightmare. Bodies everywhere, streets drenched in blood, the air thick with the coppery stench of death. Corpses lay on the road, disemboweled, their entrails spread across the earth. Children had not been spared. Some were impaled and hung like gruesome trophies. Lin Chuan's face drained of color. Without hesitation, he dropped from the sky. He smashed into the ground with explosive force, punching a crater in the earth. The raiders who had been tormenting the survivors were blasted backward against walls and heaps of debris. Lin Chuan rose slowly and took in the scene with cold, hard eyes. The attackers were not ordinary marauders. 6 feet tall, hair like bristle, gray fur showing where skin was exposed, their lips pushed forward to reveal massive canine fangs. Painted faces and crude decorations turned them into savages in appearance. But Lin Chuan knew what they were: wolf thieves, creatures born from the mating of the wind demon wolf spirit beast and humans. They had the bodies, speed, and some cunning of the wind demon wolf, and a bloodthirsty, brutal nature. They preyed on humans, especially women, breeding a twisted race in the process. At Lin Chuan's appearance, the wolf thieves snarled and turned as one, eyes bloodshot and mouths foaming. Their intent to kill was as palpable as a blade. Kneel, Lin Chuan roared. A sweep of crimson light radiated out from him. The mysterious primordial fire he could command formed a field and, under the lock of his spirit power, hit every wolf thief with surgical precision. A crushing pressure rolled over them, and one by one they collapsed to their knees, faces pressed to the ground, eyes wide with fear, too stunned to cry out or resist. Die. Lin Chuan stomped the ground. A rain of fire fell from the sky, swallowing the wolf thieves. They were consumed and turned to ash before they could form a scream. They were dangerous. Each one could rival a century-old spirit beast, and among them was a mutated leader as strong as a 10,000-year spirit beast, terrifying to ordinary people, but no match for Lin Chuan. "Brother Chuan," calls came from behind. Duguyan and the two others arrived, having witnessed the carnage on their way. The three women's faces were pale, but they steeled themselves. Lin Chuan shook his head, bitter. "I've killed the wolf thieves attacking this place, but there are still survivors. Let's find them. Ling Ling and I will tend to the injured." They swept through the town, salvaging survivors. Most of the living were women and children. Only a handful of men remained, and many of those were maimed. The wolf thieves had not only pillaged but slaughtered men for food. Women were left either as brood hosts or as prey if they were not pregnant. Where this town had once numbered in the thousands, only a few hundred remained. "Xiao Ling!" Duguyan's voice cut through the wails. A young woman, curled on top of a corpse and crying herself hoarse, lifted her face at the call. When she recognized Duguyan, tears streamed down in crystal lines. "Sister Dugu, is that you?" Duguyan stepped forward and held the girl, Xiaoling, tight, patting her back and murmuring comfort while the woman sobbed out, "My grandfather, my father, they're both dead. I have no family left." One by one their grief erupted, the town filled with keening. Intense, raw pain that had nothing to do with relief. Duguyan held Xiaoling as she wept. Lin Chuan stood off to the side, uncaring of what to say. His silence felt more honest than any comfort he could offer. Ye Lingling, grim, worked with the life Lingtang in her hands, treating wounds and trying to staunch blood, but there were too many injuries and too few hands. A shadow moved overhead. Lin Chuan looked up. A swift-type soul master hovered above, alighting with the smooth arrogance of someone who thinks themselves in control. He surveyed the survivors, and then, without pretense, sneered, "So you're still alive." The tone prickled. "What do you mean by that?" Lin Chuan's voice went cold. The newcomer's expression flickered. "Nothing." He lied quickly, then tried to steady himself. "Have the wolf bandits been here? Who are you?" Lin Chuan's gaze didn't miss the subtle ripples of emotion beneath the man's words. The evasions. Without another word, he launched forward, grabbed the man's throat, and lifted him off the ground until the man's face flushed red and his hands clawed uselessly at Lin Chuan's iron grip. He looked as if his neck could be crushed with one more turn. "Answer me. Tell the truth, or I'll make you wish you were dead," Lin Chuan said, voice a dark promise. Panic shone in the man's eyes. Lin Chuan loosened his grip a fraction, enough to force him to gasp and cough. "Where did you come from?" The man tried to lie, but under Lin Chuan's stare he crumpled. I serve Count Oron of the Star Luo Empire." "And what were you doing here?" "Surveying, investigating the wolf bandits." "So you knew about the wolf bandits already," Lin Chuan said. Suspicion sharpened to accusation. The man swallowed hard, then confessed in a rush. "Yes, they attacked other places. The Count sent me to find out where they were heading and report back." "If you knew," Lin Chuan pressed, "why didn't he send forces to stop them?" The man's gaze flitted away. Pressure built in Lin Chuan's grip until the man's eyes widened. He swallowed, then admitted. Count Oren didn't want other nobles to know his lands were being overrun. He didn't want to become a laughingstock. He thought if he moved his troops and provoked the pack, they might take advantage, or he might be embarrassed among the nobles. So he sent me only to gather information. A howl of disgust rose from the gathered survivors. Zhu Zuqing stepped forward, voice cold, contempt clear. "These people pay taxes to him every year, subjects of his realm, and he sacrifices them to preserve his pride? What kind of man is that?" Lin Chuan's patience broke. He spat a gout of searing flame that incinerated the man on the spot, leaving only ash. The survivors watched in stunned silence as the Count's envoy turned to smoke. Du Guyan stood slowly, her tone heavy with anger and sorrow. A nest of selfish nobles, fledgling hearts beating for their comfort alone. For the sake of their ridiculous dignity, they abandon ordinary people. This world, it shouldn't be like this. "Yes," Lin Chuan said quietly, eyes distant and sharp. "This world shouldn't be like this." Chapter 165, False Star Luo Empire, in the territory of Count Oren. The great manor stood opulent and cold under the night sky, jade railings and carved balustrades glittering even in the dark. "Isn't Weber back yet?" a stout man in embroidered robes demanded suddenly, fingers worrying a jade ring on his thumb, worry etched between his brows. "No news of Weber yet, my lord," the butler answered, voice low. "Wasted," Count Oren snorted, his face darkening. "He didn't die at the hands of those wolf thieves, did he?" The butler dared not speak further. Outside, the count's anger felt like a storm. He ordered, "Seal the manor. No one in or out. Patrol the grounds day and night. Even if the wolf bandits show up, do not let them rush in." "As you command, my lord," the man replied, but hesitated. Finally, he ventured, "Master, perhaps we should ask neighboring nobles for aid, or post a reward, call in a soul master or the spirit hall to deal with them." "Make me a laughingstock," Oren's temper flared. "Do you think I want to beg help like that?" "Forgive me, my lord. I only mean that letting these bandits ravage the land would hurt you. After all, they're your property," the housekeeper stammered. "Humph," Oren said, dismissive. "They're nothing but beasts. They don't merit my time. It's best they leave my territory soon. Disgusting animals." But the words were all he could afford. As a hereditary noble who'd lived a life of ease, Oren lacked both talent and a strong army, only a few thousand men, so he could not openly offend those half-man, half-wolf marauders. He could curse them, but he could not safely confront them. "All right, if Weber returns, have him come to see me in the morning," he added, waving them off. There were more pleasurable matters to attend to tonight. "Beauty, your count is here," Oran said with a lascivious grin as he pushed open the bedchamber door, but instead of a beautiful woman, a broad back filled his doorway. The smile froze. He started to speak when the figure vanished and pain exploded in his throat. Oran clutched at his neck, choking. Blood poured out as he sank to the carpet, the stick he kept for punishing women lodged deep in his windpipe. He gagged, but could no longer make a sound. A dark shadow moved, opening its mouth to send a gout of flame that licked the wall and set the room alight. Then, as suddenly as it had come, the figure slipped away. "It's gone," someone cried. By the time the servants had doused the flames and the manor quieted, it was too late. Count Oren lay dead, his priceless carpet irrevocably stained red. The household erupted in panic and conjecture, but the killer had come and gone without leaving a trace. No one in the manor had seen anything conclusive. The matter stalled and was, for the time being, left to fester. In a small town not far off, the wounds left by the wolf thieves still throbbed. The dead could not be brought back, and the survivors had to go on living. Most were unwilling to abandon their homes. Only the wine shop girl and a handful of women agreed to go with Lin Chuan and the others to the Tiando Empire. Their families had all perished in the raid, leaving them nothing to tie them down. "Xiao Chuan, did you confront the count?" Duguyan asked as their group set out. Lin Chuan did not hide anything. He nodded slowly. "I killed that fat man, just to vent my anger, but it won't change anything." Duguyan's jaw tightened. "Most nobles are the same. Even if one dies, the next will be no different. If we don't fix things at their root, killing a few won't matter." Lin Chuan's eyes flickered. His voice dropped to a level that made Duguyan listen with full attention. "Then change the world. I can't promise for the whole realm, but in my territory, that won't happen. They won't treat my people like cattle." "I believe you," Duguyan said, turning to look at him with trust in his eyes. Something inside Lin Chuan shifted imperceptibly. Territory was no longer merely a means of power, but a responsibility. Once people pay taxes to you, you must make their lives better, for no reason other than conscience. "We should get back to Snowfield City as soon as we can," he said. Elsewhere, in the Killing City, the sky hung low and leaden, the air thick with acrid smoke and the metallic tang of blood. It was a city built on slaughter, where depravity wore a garish smile. Everyone moved among a crowd heavy with murderous intent. Children could snap a neck without second thought. If the outer city was a dead, cold place, the inner city was the extravagant mirror. Every color was brighter, every vice louder. The inner city had 10 times the number of people, none of them innocent. Rules there were meaningless, only the law of the jungle held sway. Somewhere in that chaos, 3 figures had Tang San surrounded. "Heh, your blood will taste delicious. Let this old man have a sip," rasped one voice. "Don't be greedy. He looks tender. He'll taste better if I—" "Savor him first," another said. He's scrawny, maybe a newcomer. Let me try. I'll make sure you're satisfied, the third purred. They traded barbs while advancing on him, but Tang San stood calm. His movements were light and precise as he avoided their attacks. A closer look showed his broken right leg had healed. His right arm remained missing, but it didn't hinder his fighting. Die! Someone screamed. A strange weapon materialized in Tang San's hand. He pulled the trigger, and a shower of tiny steel needles spat out, spraying at the three like a deadly blossom of thorns. The middle-aged bruiser was caught off guard and became a sieve of holes. He crashed to the ground in an instant. The swaying woman was nimble and slipped behind the fallen man. She escaped. The old man, quick but not quick enough, had his right leg pierced by a rigid root-like needle and cried out. "Poisoned!" he screamed, feeling the sickness crawl through him. In a desperate bid to stop the spread, he hacked off his own leg. The self-amputation was brutal and decisive, a mad choice, but in a place where soul power could take life in a heartbeat, it was also a path to death. Tang San seized the opening. In one fluid motion, he produced another head in his hand, an extra, grotesque thing that made even the hardened woman nervous. He advanced toward her, crimson light gathering in his eyes. "Brother, don't kill me," she begged, trying to flatter him. "My sister's useful. Keep her alive and you can do whatever you want." As she spoke, her collar slipped, her body offering itself and her eyes widening in calculated appeal. To a lesser man, the sight might have softened resolve. For Tang San, it only stoked something darker. The red light in his eyes flared. He darted forward, pinched her throat with one hand and slammed her to the ground. The 8 sharp spider spears that had been coiled like sleeping serpents along his back erupted outward with a sickening speed. Her blade flashed. She spat a short knife at his face in a final, feral snarl. "You'll die," she hissed. Tang San grinned with a madness that matched hers. He had been ready. He turned his head, and the knife missed. Then he twisted her neck with brutal force. The 8 spears drove into her body, and the light that ran down them turned the air red. The woman's eyes widened in shock as her strength drained away. Flesh and will shriveled. Her body became a desiccated husk until finally even the shell was consumed. "That's it!" Tang San breathed, a ghastly satisfaction settling over him. He felt power flood back, addictive as a full meal. The scarlet glow in his eyes ebbed as he calmed, but he didn't stop. The 8-spider lance quivered and pierced the 2 remaining bodies on the ground. Their life essences were drawn away, and Tang San grew stronger, the weapon itself taking on a stranger, more terrifying look. He exhaled, feeling the hunger within settle for a moment. "I chose to come to this killing city for a reason," he murmured. "All the soul masters here are twisted. Better to turn them into my strength than to let them keep harming people." In a year, by devouring life forces like this, Tang San had increased his soul power by at least 15 levels. Had he hunted soul rings instead, he might already have broken through to Soul Emperor. But he was still far from enough. Lin Chuan could not remain complacent. The Spirit Hall had its behemoths. If he was to stand against them, he needed to reach at least the Soul Douluo ranks, and he had to accelerate his devouring. And then there was the rage. With each soul he consumed, something raw and furious swelled within him. The hunger to vent this rage gnawed at him. Sometimes he had to soothe it in the only way available, seeking out women to sate the fury, but that was only a temporary fix and would spiral out of control if he relied on it. "Once I get revenge, this rage will have purpose," he told himself coldly. "It will be a tool." His urgency now was more immediate. He needed a right arm bone to restore his missing hand. His left leg had healed thanks to devoured vitality and the cooperation of soul bones. The killing city would surely offer some luck in finding the right parts. "Wait, Lin Chuan, Spirit Hall," he hissed to the empty air, a wicked smile parting his lips. "I'll have my revenge before long." He tasted the lingering auras around him, licked his lips, and split into several shadows before melting into the crowd. The killing resumed nearby, as if nothing had happened. Such noise was nothing new in a city where death was currency and nobody thought twice about taking a life. Chapter 166, Shui Langshan, titled Douluo. Finally, I'm back. Lin Chuan let out a small, contented sigh as he looked at the familiar city wall. He hadn't returned in almost 2 years, and the changes were obvious. The streets were lively. Soldiers in full armor patrolled at intervals. Even in his absence, Shui Langchen and the others had clearly done well developing their territory. Who goes there? Just as he arrived outside the manor, several soul masters appeared one after another. They were strangers to him now, and Lin Chuan didn't bother with words. He let a strong ripple of soul power loose. So powerful! The soul masters stiffened as if facing a major threat. Their faces were grave, and some betrayed a hint of panic, but surprisingly, none of them fled. Not bad. Lin Chuan nodded to himself, satisfied. A few familiar auras approached quickly, and his expression brightened. Senior Dugu, Dean Shui, long time no see. At his greeting, two figures stepped forward. Boy, you're finally back. Dugu Bo's voice was hoarse but full of surprise. Beside him, Shui Lanqin smiled. Her eyes held a moving light, 1,000 words condensed into one. Xiao Chuan, Yanzi Lingling, welcome home. Everyone, fall back. Shui Lanqin waved to the surrounding soul masters. Yes, Your Majesty, they replied with a respectful salute and withdrew. Your Majesty. Lin Chuan's eyebrows shot up. He hadn't expected that. And then he noticed the dramatic change in Shui Lanqin. Her features were more beautiful and somehow younger. She had reverted to her peak form. The woman who had looked over 30 now seemed at most 30. Her aura had broken through into the titled Douluo realm. Shui Lanqin smiled softly, joy shining in her eyes. Surprised? You kids are advancing fast. I couldn't just stay still, could I? Lin Chuan recovered, smiled, and clasped his hands. Congratulations, Dean. All thanks to the elixir you made for me before, Xiao Chuan. Without it, I wouldn't have broken through so quickly, and Senior Dugu helped hunt soul beasts for me too. Shui Lanqin waved off the praise, but she couldn't hide her excitement. She was the Shui family's first titled Douluo. Though newly titled and not yet comparable to veteran Douluos, she now had a voice. Don't just stand by the gate. Come in and rest. She spoke like a gracious host. Lin Chuan dismounted and led the way toward the manor. By the way, Dean, there are some things to handle. We brought back some ordinary civilians from the Xingluo Empire in the carriage. Please arrange for them. Hearing that, Shui Lanqin's expression turned playfully indignant. You little brat, ordering people around as soon as you return. I was born to do hard work, apparently. The more capable you are, the more work you get, Lin Chuan said with a grin. His bluntness made the beautiful woman roll her eyes, but she waved for an attendant to take care of the newcomers. They all entered the manor. Lin boy, you disappearing for 2 years made me worry sick. Dugubo couldn't hide his anxiety once they sat down. No one really knew what dangers a young Douluo might face. If Lin Chuan ran into several title Douluos at once, his earlier advantage in killing ordinary title Douluos might not be enough. Grandpa, we're back safe, Dugu Yan said, taking Dugu Bo's hand and leaning against him like a spoiled child. Lin Chuan smiled. I promised, Senior. I wouldn't let Yanzi or the others fall into trouble. I kept my word. What did you gain from the assessment site? Dugu Bo pressed. He could feel that both Dugu Yan and Ye Lingling were much stronger now. Lin Chuan's soul power had changed in a way that made Dugu Bo uneasy. He couldn't quite sense it. That alone left him a little unnerved. As for our gains, let Yanzi and the others explain themselves, Lin Chuan said, smiling and staying out of the way. A proud light flashed in Dugu Yan's eyes. She spoke delicately. Grandpa, my soul power is now level 68. I officially became a 6-ring soul emperor. What? Really? Dugu Bo's eyes widened. He remembered his granddaughter at level 49 when he left. An increase of 19 levels in 2 years? Unthinkable. Of course it's true. Dugu Yan snorted and manifested her martial soul. 6 soul rings appeared behind her, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 2 black, each one shining clearly. Dugu Bo clapped his hands, emotional. Excellent, excellent. Shui Lanqin turned to Ye Lingling. The girl answered coolly, my soul power is a bit higher than Yanzi's. I'm currently level 70. However, I haven't awakened a soul ring yet, so I'm only considered a 6th ring soul emperor for the time being. Ah, I still can't catch up with you, Lingling. Dugu Yan cried out in mock lament. Shui Lanqin felt her mouth go dry for a moment. She was genuinely shocked. Then she looked at Lin Chuan with deep anticipation. Xiao Chuan, what level are you at now? Everyone present, except Ye Lingling, who remained composed, turned to look. Lin Chuan scratched his cheek, smiling sheepishly. I might scare you if I say. That confident tease made several people tense. Dugubo's breathing quickened. He swallowed, and his face showed a strange excitement. Lin, you haven't broken through to title Douluo, have you? No way, Shui Lanxin exclaimed, trembling at the thought. She had worked so hard to reach her title. Could he have overtaken her so quickly? Lin Chuan shook his head gently. Not that. I'm at level 90. I'm still one soul ring short of becoming a titled Douluo. No matter how talented you are, you can't advance that fast. Dugubo started, but his words froze when Lin Chuan confirmed the number. You're level 90? Dugubo's voice cracked. He felt his scalp tingle. The gap between level 90 and a titled Douluo is immense. Lin Chuan had been only 17 or 18 when he reached near title, an achievement that beat even famous figures who only earned their titles decades later. It was unprecedented, at least by the usual standards. Boy, Lin, you truly are a freak, Dugubo finally said, half in awe, half in disbelief. Shui Lanxin nodded, eyes wide with a mixture of respect and astonishment. Chapter 167, Tiando's Shocking Changes. Senior Dugu, you flatter me, but you've really grown a lot stronger, Lin Chuan said with a grin, refusing to let Dugubo puff up too much. Dugubo brightened and waved it off airily. That pill did wonders. Not only did my martial soul evolve, the leftover potency pushed me up to 95. It's close to the limit. It'll slow down from here on out. He paused, satisfied. Even so, I'm pleased. The weakest titled Douluo I once knew is only a step away from Super Douluo now. Congratulations on the breakthrough, Senior, someone called. All right, you little monster, stop teasing me, Dugubo huffed, though his smile betrayed him. With your strength now, I wouldn't stand a chance against you, would I? It was phrased like a question, but spoke certainty. Lin Chuan only smiled mysteriously and kept his mouth shut. How could he boast that poisoned Douluo wasn't inferior to him? That would sound arrogant, even insulting. Smiling politely was safer. Dugubo sighed helplessly and waved a hand. Never mind, I'm not trying to compete, but anyone who ends up opposing you in the future should be worried. A 17 or 18-year-old titled Douluo with soul skills capable of severely injuring other titled Douluo under the protection of a soul emperor. The thought made the hairs on the back of one's neck rise. Senior, you're very kind, Lin Chuan replied. Hearts lightened, and the group relaxed. Lin Chuan cleared his throat. Ahem, Dean, nothing major happened while I was away, right? Shui Lanxin blinked, a hint of puzzlement on her face. I thought you weren't concerned about the territory, but no major incidents. Neither the Spirit Hall nor the Tiando Empire moved. That gives us a good opportunity. It's the calm before the storm, Lin Chuan said, his voice cooling. As someone who knew a sliver of the future, he understood how inevitable the coming conflict with Wuhun Palace was. Dean Shui, please have your family raise more troops. Shui Lanxin's eyes widened. Is it that serious? You want to build an army? Are you planning to expand your power? No. Lin Chuan shook his head. I've seen things and thought differently. These troops are to protect ordinary people within our territory. Now that I have some standing in the territory, I must give them shelter. Her expression softened. I understand. I'll arrange it right away. Anything else? For now, no. But watch Wuhun Palace closely. They're going to make a big move soon. This won't be the small skirmishes any longer. It will be thunderous force. Shui Lanxin sobered. Where are Binger and the others? Practicing at the academy, Lin Chuan answered. Those kids are trying hard to catch up. They don't want to fall far behind and miss the divine examination. The divine assessment was brutal. Lin Chuan doubted the children could catch up quickly. There's a testing ground ideal for water and ice attribute soul masters. I can take them there. Really? Shui Lanxin brightened instantly. Dugubo, listening, looked hopeful. Boy Lin, do you think I qualify for the assessment? He asked tentatively. I may not have your raw talent, but I am a titled Douluo now. You could probably pass the test, Lin Chuan said frankly, but the gods favor certain people. I doubt you'd be chosen as an inheritor. At best, even if you became a peerless Douluo, you'd likely be a guardian, waiting for the destined heir to take the mantle. Dugubo's face clouded with disappointment. Lin Chuan pressed on. There is another angle. If Yanzi were to inherit the Earth God, as the inheritor, she could bring others into the divine realm. You might gain without becoming a god yourself. The older man's expression brightened. Knowing he might obtain extended privilege through his granddaughter lifted his spirits considerably. "Is that possible?" someone asked. "Yes," Lin Chuan said. He then turned to Shui Lanqin. "Dean, send for Shui Binger and the others. Have them come to Snowfield City at once." "I'll go now." Shui Lanqin sprang up and left, eager to summon the children. Even if they weren't chosen as inheritors like Dugu Yan or Ye Lingling, just undergoing the test could change their destinies. Lin Chuan and the others had been transformed by it. The thought made her anxious and excited. Ye Lingling rose quietly. "Brother Chuan, I'll go home to see grandfather and mother." "Go then," Lin Chuan smiled, nodding. "Yanzi, you and Senior Dugu have much to say. Rest well." They dispersed. Lin Chuan noticed Juju King had been quietly silent. She met his gaze, then looked away. "I almost forgot. I'll set up a room for you. Come with me." The manor was vast but sparsely occupied. After settling Juju King, Lin Chuan headed to his own chamber. Behind him, faintly at first then swelling, came a rush of cultivation energy. He couldn't help thinking, she started practicing as soon as we returned. She really won't give up. A pity some people are blind, he mused, and smiled. In her room, the cold, composed girl who had been meditating opened her eyes, their light complicated, then closed them again. 3 days passed in Snowfield City. Shui Binger and the rest hurried to Snowfield when summoned, exhilarated at the chance to face the divine examinations. Shuier in particular kept urging them to depart immediately. Only after persuasion did she calm down. The group planned to head to Poseidon Island in a few days. Then, Dugubo burst in unannounced. "Boy Lin, come out now," he panted, urgency written on his face. "Senior Dugu, what's wrong?" Lin Chuan demanded. "Prince Shuixing sent word. Something's changed in Tiando City. Emperor Shui's been poisoned. They want me to come and see if I can help." "Poisoned? Emperor Shui?" Lin Chuan's face went taut. This was sooner than expected. Qian Renshui was supposed to wait at least 3 years before acting. Had her timetable changed? The Qibao glazed sect and the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaur family were still intact. Why would she rush? Still, turmoil in Tiando could not be ignored. "We must go now," Dugubo urged. He had been saved by Shuixing before, and he did not want to see the Emperor's fall spark chaos across the empire. "Get moving. If we delay, it'll be too late." "All right." Lin Chuan swallowed his doubts and stood. "I'll go with you." "Grandpa, I'm coming too," Dugu Yan blurted. Ye Lingling rose quietly beside Lin Chuan, silent but determined. Dugubo shook his head. "You two should stay in Snowfield City. Lin Chuan and I will travel light to Tiando City. With the water director here, I'll feel better about leaving the children." "Listen to Senior Dugu," the others agreed reluctantly. Shui Langxin added solemnly, "Take care on this trip." They hurried through a brief farewell. Time was pressing. There was no room for ceremony. Lin Chuan and Dugubo left immediately, covering the distance to Tiando City in 2 days thanks to their high cultivation. As they entered Tiando City, they encountered 100 cavalry racing through the streets, their presence chilling. Dugubo's expression darkened. "This is worse than we thought. The Tiando Empire is on the brink of upheaval. If Emperor Shui died, imperial succession and the ensuing power struggles would shake the continent." They headed straight for the palace. Their identities, a Marquis of Tiando and a guest minister entitled Douluo, opened the gates without hindrance, but the mood inside the palace was grim. Lin Chuan spread his mental senses and took in the scene. He stiffened. "Senior Dugu, I'm afraid we're too late. Emperor Shui has no sign of life. It doesn't look like he just died. And the palace hasn't announced anything," Lin Chuan said. "Why so sudden?" Dugubo's face blanched. "Someone's up to no good." Outside the imperial chambers, soldiers in armor held the way with spears and blades, refusing entry. Dugubo produced his guest medallion. The captain of the guard didn't even glance at it. "His Majesty is resting," the captain barked. "His Royal Highness the Crown Prince orders that no one may disturb the palace. Those who disobey will be killed." "What?" Dugubo sputtered. "Don't you recognize this medal?" "I'm illiterate," the captain said flatly, "and I obey the Crown Prince's orders." His hand hovered near his sword. Lin Chuan's face went cold. He moved like a shadow and closed the distance in an instant. The captain started to shout, but Lin Chuan's fist struck the back of his head. The man slumped, unconscious. Within heartbeats, the rest of the blocking detail lay incapacitated around them. You're too reckless, Dugubo scolded, though he had not reacted fast enough to stop him. Lin Chuan smiled faintly. We don't have time to bargain. Look closer. These aren't ordinary royal guards. He counted quickly. 50 men, none below level 50 in cultivation. Unusual to station so many powerful soul masters merely to block palatial entry and explicitly obey the prince alone. Come, we'll see what monster is orchestrating this, Lin Chuan said. I am a Marquise of Tiando. I can't stand by while the empire falls into chaos. They pushed inside the palace. A calm voice floated down the corridor like spring wind. Brother Lin Chuan, long time no see. I wouldn't have imagined you returning after 2 years, much less appearing in the palace. Lin Chuan and Dugubo turned. Crown Prince Shui Qinghe emerged, his face the same pleasant, approachable facade it always had. 2 older men followed him. Their restrained bearing and the aura they carried marked them as formidable masters, not mere courtiers. It's been a long time, Your Highness, Lin Chuan replied evenly. I didn't expect we'd meet under such circumstances. Shui Qinghe halted 5 paces away, eyes calculating. Why did you come from Snowfield City, Brother Lin Chuan? And why did you attack the palace guards? Explain yourself. Lin Chuan returned his smile. Senior Dugu and I came to save the Tiando Empire from disaster. But perhaps you could introduce these 2 gentlemen behind you. They carry quite a bit of strength. At that, Shui Qinghe's smile wavered. The expression he had worn slipped, revealing a seriousness that did not bode well. Chapter 168, Clothes Slightly Dirty. Lin Chuan smiled coolly and looked past Shui Qinghe toward the throne room behind him. Since you brought reinforcements, don't hide any longer. Step forward. At his command, 2 more figures detached themselves from the shadows. One wore a black topknot, had gray-blue eyes and a scar over his right eye that only served to sharpen his handsome features. The other dressed similarly, both in golden armor with purple robes draped over their shoulders, clearly brothers. At their appearance, Dugubo's body stiffened. Titled Douluo, the spirit hall is generous indeed. Lin Chuan's expression showed surprise but not fear. Shui Qinghe sighed. There's no choice. My father is gravely ill, the palace struggles between factions, and my 4th brother and the emperor's uncle are scheming for the throne. To prevent civil war, I had to ask the spirit hall for help. Lin Chuan clapped once lightly. A noble intent, but you're not actually planning to spare Shui Beng or Shui Xing or even Emperor Shui Ye in the palace, are you? You might have already killed them all. Don't say that. Shui Qinghe shook his head, his eyes suddenly earnest. I only want to stop the empire from tearing itself apart. Brother Lin Chuan, why don't you come stay in the palace and help me? With your talent, if we join forces, we can make the Tiando Empire stronger than ever. The offer sounded intoxicating, the promise of vast influence under a single ruler. But Lin Chuan shook his head. Emperor Shui Ye is dead. That settles it. Shui Qinghe feigned regret. A pity. If Brother Lin Chuan won't join me, then I'll have to detain you. He turned to his elders. Take them down. 4 figures burst forward in a flash. 2 aged masters surged toward Dugubo. The 2 golden-armored brothers advanced on Lin Chuan. Soul power and brilliant lights exploded from them, and a combined pressure slammed down on the chamber. Senior Dugu, Snake Spear and Thorny Porpoise are yours. I'll handle Qianjun and Jiangmo, Lin Chuan said softly, matching opponents with a few calm words. Dugubo's face gleamed with confidence. Don't worry, Kid Lin. I'll deal with them. But the 2 golden-armored brothers were not what they first appeared. A new wave of soul power rolled out from them, stronger than Snake Spear and Thorny Porpoise, and only marginally weaker than Qianjun and Jiangmo. Shui Qinghe and his titled Douluo all tensed. The reinforcements were far more formidable than expected. Shui Qinghe's expression tightened with relief. If those 2 hadn't been invited from the Spirit Hall, he would likely have lost today. He's powerful, Shui Qinghe warned hurriedly to his followers. Lin Chuan's soul skills are vicious. He once cut off Tang Hao's arm with 1 arrow. Don't meet him head on. We understand. The 2 brothers nodded, but they were inwardly shaken. Lin Chuan merely smiled. Don't worry, I won't be using arrows. A dim flash, and his nightshade twin swords were already in his hands. Qian and Jiangmo locked onto him. In an instant they charged, each wielding a dragon staff, 1 red, 1 blue, their souls roaring with heavy intent. Lin Chuan, having secluded himself in the Temple of Life for nearly 2 years, felt the itch to fight. He welcomed this trial. He moved like lightning, blades singing, and clashed with the twin staffs. The impact drove them back. Shui Qinghe took a dozen hurried steps back to avoid the shockwave as Lin Chuan pushed harder. Open! Lin Chuan roared and unleashed a second surge. The red and blue light that swelled from their staffs became a tidal force. With a thunderous crash, the two were thrown backward, smashing through walls. Dust and rubble swallowed them. They're super Douluo, and they just fell. This can't be. Shui Qinghe's face was a mask of disbelief. Lin Chuan hadn't even used his soul techniques, only swordplay. But the physical power in his blows was devastating. His body had been enhanced by the dark demon evil god Tiger's origin pill, and the force-producing techniques of the 9-layer thunder sword multiplied his strikes. Where once he had relied on ranged soul power, now his physique and blade were more than a match for titled Douluo. Qianjun and Jiangmo staggered out of the dust, pale and bleeding from their mouths. They were seriously injured. The two who had opposed Du Gubo were similarly weakened, giving ground under Lin Chuan's pressure. Qianjun and Jiangmo's faces hardened with humiliation and rage. "Brother, we can't hold back any longer," Qianjun hissed. "All right," Jiangmo answered, and they both unleashed their true forms. Their souls flared, the coiling dragon's staff swelling with righteous might. Their combined aura was terrifying. Lin Chuan sneered, then vanished in a gust of wind, lightning fast, closing the distance to them. Caught off guard, the twins could only try to parry. Clash after clash, Lin Chuan forced them steadily backward. The duel was nearly one-sided. Shui Qinghe strained, fists clenched, disbelief burning in his eyes. How could he improve this much in just 2 years? Pride pushed the twins to their limits. With a howl, they smashed their dragon staffs down as one, unleashing a massive, synchronized attack. A gigantic red dragon vortex erupted and lunged for Lin Chuan's throat, the pressure distorting space itself. At the same moment, a golden radiance erupted from above Lin Chuan and settled over him. A reverent, sacred force tried to bind him, and the palace shook with the collision of powers. From the smoke came a cold laugh. 2 enormous coiling dragon staffs hovered ominously over Lin Chuan, held in place like a vice by the weight of their soul techniques. Shui Qinghe's eyes flared and he called out, "Angel Realm!" Black gold energy shot out and formed a shadowy domain behind him. 2 pale wings of piled light unfurled. 3 against 1, stop playing games, he shouted. Lin Chuan grinned. A breeze rose around him, and the blessing over his body resisted and broke the angelic field. Under the wind's influence, the angel realm lost its hold. Then Lin Chuan vanished as if teleporting. How is that possible? Shui Qinghe's eyes widened in shock. His angel field was supposed to restrict movement and force any trespasser back to its center. Teleportation should have been prevented. For that not to work meant the opposing domain, or the power that negated him, was stronger. With a low roar, Shui Qinghe's 7th soul ring released dense black light. Black and gold braided together until the black visibly turned to gold. The shadow behind him surged forward and fused with his form. His soul rings gleamed fully golden. "Angel true form," he proclaimed. "The angelic realm is fully open." Nothing in that sacred aura could move Lin Chuan, but the wind around him cut through everything. With a sharp whistle, Ye Ying's twin swords sliced the air, howling wind slash. The transformed dragon staff manifestations shattered into shards of light. The golden radiance that shrouded the palace space fractured and fell away, restoring the room's true colors. When the dust cleared, 2 figures knelt on the floor. Another fell from midair and crashed to the ground. The spiritual bodies they had been projecting were shattered. The person who had been posing as Shui Qinghe collapsed, her disguise broken. So Qinghe was not Shui Qinghe at all. The person beneath the robes was Qian Renshui of the martial spirit hall, her angelic lineage exposed. The holy countenance was revealed, but she lay pale, trembling, coughing up blood. She had taken grievous damage even without being the direct target of Lin Chuan's fiercest attack. If he had focused on her, she wouldn't be merely injured. "Little Lord." Qianjun and Jiangmo, propped by their broken coiling staffs at the bottom of the pit, were covered in blood. Any move they made left them racked with pain, as if their bones were crushed. Snakespear Douluo and thorny porpoise Douluo, who'd been tangling with Dugubo, now broke off at once and hurried to stand before Qian Renshui. Sweat plastered their faces. They were panicked. Dugubo, standing close to Lin Chuan, could only stare in astonishment. "Boy Lin, you're outrageous." He searched for the word and finally managed it. Lin Chuan had made two Super Douluo look defeated with such ease that their clothes were barely scuffed. Lin Chuan nodded once. "She's a Seraph Martial Spirit, likely a Martial Spirit Hall agent who took Shui Qinghei's identity. If that's the case, the Tiando royal bloodline is in grave danger." Dugubo's face darkened at the thought. The Tiando household's audacity was alarming. They hadn't even noticed their crown prince had been replaced. What now? Kill them? Before Lin Chuan could answer, 4 more auras raced in and materialized into sight. Ju Douluo Yuoguan, the Ghost Douluo, the Ghost Leopard Douluo, and Ling Yuan Douluo. Dugubo's brow tightened. These 4 were unexpected, but their arrival changed the balance. The 4 titled Douluo, seeing the ruined scene in the palace, were clearly shaken. Bibi Dong had sent them as backup. Luck had favored the Spirit Hall this time. They positioned themselves between Lin Chuan and the wounded, but none stepped forward to strike. Ling Yuan Douluo crouched, looking at Qian Renshui. "Young master, how are you?" "I can't die now," she whispered. "Elder Ling Yuan, take me away." Ling Yuan nodded and gathered her up into his arms. The Ghost Douluo slung one of the wounded twins over his shoulders. Ju Douluo and Ghost Leopard Douluo took up guard positions as they retreated. The servants and minor Douluo scattered as the 4 carried their charges out. Lin Chuan watched, unmoving. With so many titled Douluo present, a further confrontation would only risk needless destruction. Better to let them go for now. Qian Renshui, propped by Ling Yuan Douluo, fixed her eyes on Lin Chuan and, despite her pale face, promised through clenched teeth, "Lin Chuan, this defeat is recorded. I will take it back." Lin Chuan's smile was calm. "I'll wait." Chapter 169. Pushing Shui Ke to the top? Qian Renshui and the others left in a hurry. Before long, the thousands of soul masters gathered in Tiando Palace had dispersed like a receding tide. The heavy pressure of spiritual power loosened and drifted away. The vast palace suddenly felt emptier, and Lin Chuan shook his head in disbelief. The infiltration had gone far beyond anything he'd imagined. "Let's go in, Senior Dugu. We're here now. Let's see what happened," he said. Though Lin Chuan already suspected much of what had occurred, he still followed Dugubo into the palace. The halls were nearly deserted. Only a few maids lingered outside the inner room, but they had all been rendered unconscious by the fierce fighting. Lin Chuan glanced around and pushed open the last door. Emperor Shuiye lay on the wide bed, covered with a white quilt. His face looked peaceful, as if sleeping, but when Dugubo moved to touch his neck, his hand stopped midair. He withdrew it slowly and let out a helpless sigh. "As I feared, we're too late. Emperor Shuiye is dead." It wasn't just death, the corpse was already stiff. Although some treatment had delayed the usual smell, the truth could not be denied. With the emperor gone, the Tiando Empire stood on the verge of chaos. "What do we do now?" Dugubo muttered. Lin Chuan felt the same headache settle over him. This was worse than he'd expected. A shout came from outside, and footsteps thudded closer. The doors burst open, and a figure stormed in, eyes wild with panic. "Dugu Mian, Marquise Lin, why are you here?" she cried. It was Shui Ke, the Tiando princess and Emperor Shuiye's daughter. She rushed to the bedside. "Father, what happened to him?" Lin Chuan shook his head gently. "The emperor has passed." "How can?" Shui Ke's face went ashen. She crumpled to the floor in a heap, stunned and unable to accept the words. Dugubo explained quietly. Emperor Shuiye was poisoned. The crown prince, Shui Qinghei, was actually an infiltrator from Wuhun Hall in disguise. It looks like his poison. Shui Ke stood frozen, the revelation hitting her like a physical blow. Lin Chuan and Dugubo stayed back and let her absorb the truth. Before long, a ripple in space at the doorway announced 2 more arrivals. Ning Fengji and Gu Rong stepped into the room. When they saw the emperor's still body, both men's faces darkened. "What happened?" Ning Fengji demanded. Dugubo didn't hide anything. He recounted the battle outside and the discovery inside the palace. When Ning learned that Shui Qinghei had been replaced by a Wuhun Hall agent who had poisoned the emperor, his expression turned grim. That the imposter could stand so long without detection, even the prince's own teacher had failed to notice, meant Wu Hunhal's work had been meticulous and long planned. Wu Hunhal's methods are monstrous, Gurong said softly. To have infiltrated so deeply, they must have been planning this for years. Ning Fengji's jaw tightened. This was not a simple assassination. It was a strategic strike aimed at toppling the Tiando ruling line. Right now isn't the time to analyze their methods, Lin Chuan said. With the emperor murdered, stabilizing the empire is the priority. Someone must step forward and take charge. Ning Fengji recovered his composure quickly. Uncle Gu, go to the prince's mansion. Bring Prince Shuixing and Prince Shuibeng here. Gurong bowed and disappeared. He returned moments later with a face like thunder. Ning noticed. Uncle Gu, what is it? Both Shuixing and Shuibeng are dead, Gurong said. Their bodies are in the prince's mansion. When I went there, the place was empty. No defenders, no one left. The news was too much for Shuike. Overcome by grief, she fainted. Ning Fengji hurried to his pouch and pulled out the 7 treasures glazed pagoda, using it to stabilize her. But her sorrow was overwhelming. She would need time to recover. Ning let out a long, helpless breath. Wu Hunhal had not stopped at the emperor. They'd eliminated other heirs as well. With the princes dead and the crown prince an imposter, the Tiando Empire effectively had no clear successor. Marquis Lin, Dugumian, do you have any suggestion? Ning asked, looking between Lin Chuan and Dugubo. Dugubo thought for a moment. If I recall correctly, King Barak Kundera is a cousin of the late emperor. He might be able to oversee the situation. Ning's eyes brightened, but Lin Chuan interjected before he could respond. Why search for a distant relative? There's a ready candidate right here. You mean Princess Shuike? Ning said, surprised. Lin Chuan nodded. She is the emperor's biological daughter. With Tiando blood in her veins, she is a legitimate heir under these circumstances. Ning hesitated. But she's a woman. Many ministers will oppose a female ruler. Lin Chuan snorted. So what? Who ruled that only men could ascend? The Spirit Hall's leader is a woman. If the 7 Treasures glazed sect publicly supports Shuike, who would dare to oppose her? With our backing, any dissent could be quelled. He let the last words hang, and there was a knowing look at the corner of his mouth. Besides, isn't this what you've been hoping for, Sectmaster Ning? Ning stiffened. Lin Chuan had pierced to the heart of his ambition. The 7 Treasures glazed sect would gain immeasurably from a friendly Tiando ruler. With Wu Hunhal making bold moves, Ning knew his sect needed a strong royal ally. Finally, he asked what he'd really wanted to know. And you, Marquis, will you support Princess Shuike? Being the man who had just fought off several titled Douluo, Lin Chuan's choice mattered. Ning Fengji wanted to know where he stood. Lin Chuan smiled without malice. You don't have to test me. Who sits on the throne doesn't matter to me. I came to prevent chaos in the Tiando Empire, not to court power. Ning was taken aback by the answer. He pressed on, unwilling to accept it at face value. You do want the Tiando Empire to remain stable, don't you? Of course, Lin Chuan said evenly. But I was once a commoner. My concern is the well-being of ordinary people. I don't care who wears the crown, as long as the people's lives improve. His clarity left Ning both disappointed and relieved. Lin Chuan was not a seeker of throne power. He was a protector. That would be useful. Very well, Ning said. This matter will be handled by the 7 Treasures glazed sect. Senior Dugu, Marcus Lin, you should go for now. Lin Chuan paused at the doorway. Dugu Mian and I will remain in Tiando City for a few days to ensure the Spirit Hall doesn't return. The rest is up to you, Sectmaster Ning. Don't take too long. Hearing that, Ning allowed himself a small measure of relief. An unpredictable but powerful protector remained in the city. He turned to Gurong. Send Princess Shuike to a safer place first. After that, we need to secure Marshal Gei Long's support. If we are to place Shuike on the throne, we'll need his backing. Gurong inclined his head. Outside the dimmed halls of Tiando Palace, the Empire's fate hung in the balance, caught between Wu Hunhal's ruthless scheme and the fragile alliance forming to resist it. Chapter 170, Reactions from All Sides. Chaos erupted through the palace. The royal guards scrambled, but Ning Fengji acted quickly and held the situation together. Invoking his authority as the prince's teacher, he blocked the scandal from spilling further into the court. Qian Renshui probably had not expected that. Even after fleeing, she would still be exposed and dragged back. Still, the calm was only temporary. The death of Emperor Shuiye could not be hidden forever. Before the empire plunged into full turmoil, a successor had to be settled. Under the protection of several titled Douluo, Qian Renshui was taken straight back to the Wuhun Palace and placed in the worship hall. Ling Yuan Douluo and Ghost Douluo escorted her and Qianjun Jiangmo to the enshrinement hall, while Zhu Douluo and Ghost Leopard Douluo returned to the papal hall to resume their duties. So she failed? Bibi Dong sat on the papal throne, a scepter in her hand. Her voice was low, almost bored. "It's true, Your Holiness." Zhu Douluo and Ghost Leopard Douluo bowed their heads. Although they had not been the architects of the Wuhun Palace's long-running plot, its failure at the final hour left them anxious. They could be implicated, Bibi Dong sneered. So this is the person Qian Daolu trained? Pathetic. The two titled Douluo swallowed their words. Bibi Dong's cold sarcasm left them careful and silent. They would have liked to protest, but nothing they could say would change the fact that the plan had collapsed. "Forget it," Bibi Dong said after a moment, her tone even. "We didn't really expect her to succeed. At least we've eliminated the male heirs of the Tiando royal family. The Tiando Empire will be thrown into chaos, and that suits Wuhun Palace." Zhu Douluo and Ghost Leopard Douluo exhaled in relief. What they did not realize was that Bibi Dong's ambitions were stranger and darker than they imagined. When Qian Shunji had once taken over Qian Renshui's body and ruined the girl's life, something in Bibi Dong had snapped. She had grown convinced that life itself was corrupt and that vengeance on the world was justified. She no longer sought merely to conquer the Tiando Empire. She wanted a continent-wide inferno. In that light, Qian Renshui's failure was almost welcome. It nudged the world closer to the upheaval she craved. A wild light flashed in Bibi Dong's eyes before she masked it again. The two Douluo, heads bowed, noticed nothing. "Prepare yourselves," she commanded. "Don't fail me again." "Yes, Your Holiness," they replied and left the hall. Wuhun City, the worship hall. Qian Renshui opened her eyes on a familiar, exquisitely made bed. The sharp pain that had racked her body had faded. For a moment she lay still, taking in the room, its layout, the soft light, and then realized with a tightening in her chest that this was the small chamber she had known as a child. Relief washed over her, but it was brittle. "Have I really come back to Wuhun City?" she murmured, touching her chest. Scenes from Tiando Palace kept replaying in her mind. The cool mask she'd worn there fell away and left her feeling cold and furious. After more than 20 years of scheming and patient waiting, the prime of her life had been sacrificed for a single monumental stroke meant to crush the Tiando Empire. And then, at the last step, everything had gone wrong. Qian Renshui's hands curled into fists. It had been so close. If only she had announced Emperor Shuiye's death at the right moment. Posing as Shui Qinghe, she could have taken the throne. Instead, the Qibao Luli sect's watchfulness and the sudden appearance of Lin Chuan had ruined the plan. She bit back a groan and forced herself to breathe. "Lin Chuan, you won this round," she whispered, the words like a vow. "But I won't give up. We will meet again." The door opened and Qian Daolu stepped in with a gentle smile. Tall, though not imposing, dressed in plain gray robes, he carried the calm gravity of the Wuhun Palace's chief priest. Seeing him, Qian Renshui rose and called out, "Grandfather!" "I knew you'd wake soon," he replied softly when he reached her. She hurried forward and lowered her head. "I'm sorry, Grandfather. I failed." Qian Daolu shook his head. "Don't blame yourself, Xiaoshui. You were too hasty." He did not press her. Instead, he steered her thoughts toward the path ahead. "You're back now. Focus on training. The Angel God exam is coming." Qian Renshui's expression hardened with resolve. "I won't let you down. I'll train until I'm ready. When I succeed, I'll defeat Lin Chuan and wash away this humiliation." Qian Daolu's lips curved in a proud but worried smile. "Lin Chuan, I didn't expect there'd be someone like Tang Hao on the mainland, and he's an enemy of Wuhun Hall. These kinds of talents are many." He paused. "But if you train well, Wuhun Hall will have its day." "Grandfather believes in me," Qian Renshui said firmly. "Come, practice with me," Qian Daolu urged, and together they went to the Douluo Hall. Not long after, news that would reverberate across the Tiando Empire spread like wildfire. Emperor Shuiye was dead, and the Crown Prince Shui Qinghe, along with the fourth Prince Shui Beng and Prince Shui Xing, had been assassinated. The revelations threw the court into uproar. Nobles and vassals, principalities and border kingdoms all began to stir, looking for advantage amid the succession crisis. The neighboring Xingluo Empire readied its troops, but the Tiando response was swift. With the backing of the Qibao Luli sect and Imperial Marshal Jie Long, the court pushed Princess Shui Ke, Emperor Shuiye's daughter, onto the throne. The shockwaves from that decision were nearly as great as the emperor's death itself. Between the military might Marshal Jie Long commanded and the political weight of one of the continent's top sects, dissenters had little appetite to act openly. Xingluo tested the border but kept its forces in check. On the surface, the Tiando Empire held together, if only barely. Tiando City, a guest residence belonging to Douluo, a palace guard arrived in haste with a summons. Lin Chuan looked up at the man. "Your Majesty the Empress requests your presence at the palace," the guard reported. "The Empress summoned me?" Lin Chuan rested his chin on his hand, mildly surprised. Shui Ke had only just ascended and would now be trying to secure her position, gather supporters, and stabilize the court. "Very well. Tell Her Majesty I'll be there shortly. Let me wash up first." "Yes, Lord Marquis." The guard bowed and left. Douluo, who had been listening, raised an eyebrow. "I didn't expect Shui Ke to succeed. This is unprecedented on the continent." "Likely they want to win you over, Lin Boy," Douluo said. "With your strength and your marquisate so close to Tiando City, your stance matters." Lin Chuan smiled faintly. "That's probably it. For now, I'll go and meet the Empress. After all, I am a Marquis of the Tiando Empire. It would be best if we could live in peace." "Do be cautious. If you don't make your position clear, the whole empire could become unstable," Douluo warned. "Then I'll go." He rose and walked toward the Tiando Palace at an easy pace. Inside the palace, Shui Ke sat on the dragon throne in imperial robes, her delicate face showing exhaustion. The weight of rulership lay heavy on her. As the emperor's daughter and a direct heir, she knew she could not abandon the realm to ruin. "Master Ning, is Lord Lin really as important as you say?" she asked, waiting beside Ning Fengji. Ning Fengji, seated below her, inclined his head. "Your Majesty, Marquis Lin Chuan is one of the most talented soul masters I've encountered. He fought with Marshal Jie Long and repelled 6 titled Douluo from the Spirit Hall. Even the old Haoqian Douluo would be hard-pressed to match him. Your Majesty has just taken the throne. Even with Marshal Jie Long's support, the court is unsettled. It's vital to secure allies. Marquis Lin Chuan is powerful, influential, and, I believe, destined to become a super Douluo. Gaining his backing would stabilize your rule and deter the Spirit Hall's interference." Shui Ke listened intently. She clenched her hand, drawing courage from the thought. "Very well." A eunuch announced then, "Lord Lin Chuan has arrived." Shui Ke tensed, inhaled, and composed herself. "Let Marquis Lin in." Footsteps approached the throne hall. Lin Chuan entered without halt, his presence steady, and bowed once to both Shui Ke and Ning Fengji. "Your Majesty, Sect Master Ning," he said formally. Chapter 171. Effortless. Greetings, Your Highness, Master Ning. Lin Chuan bowed lightly to Shui Ke. He had met the princess once during the canonization ceremony and remembered her as bright and lively then. Now that girl's freshness had been largely smoothed away, the spark of youth was gone. The deaths of her father and brother had left their mark. People could change in an instant, whether man or woman. She carried herself with a maturity that spoke of grief and responsibility. "Marquis Lin Chuan, please, don't be so formal. Sit," Shui Ke said. 2 eunuchs set a plain wooden chair behind him. Lin Chuan inclined his head and took the seat without hesitation. "May I ask why Your Highness summoned me?" He didn't beat around the bush. He already suspected the purpose of the summons. Shui Ke rose and bowed so suddenly and earnestly that Lin Chuan blinked. She showed no airs at all. This was an attempt to close the distance, an affectation she must have learned from Ning Fengji. Lin Chuan caught Ning's faint smile and thought, "Old fox. You and His Majesty Dugu arrived in time," Shui Ke said soberly. "If not for you, I fear the empire might have fallen to the Spirit Hall. I wish to personally thank you." Lin Chuan waved off the praise with a bow. "Your Highness flatters me. As a Marquis of the Empire, it is my duty to protect it. I don't deserve such gratitude. If I had come sooner, perhaps Emperor Shuiye." Shui Kei's hands flew up. It's not your fault, Marcus. The Spirit Hall's treachery was unexpected. No one could have foreseen it. Ning Fengji listened with a quiet, almost resigned expression. Shui Kei was still too inexperienced. Without a steady hand to guide her, she might be led astray. It was fortunate Ning had followed her. Otherwise, she might have lost sight of the bigger picture. He cleared his throat gently. Shui Kei smelled the urgency and steadied herself, sitting slowly. In any case, she continued, without you this time, the Empire would be ruined. You are a benefactor to the realm, and to me personally. Lin Chuan's eyebrows rose. He had anticipated a formal thanks, but what came next exceeded expectation. I intend to confer on you a title, Shui Kei said. I will make you the Prince of Zhenbei, a title beyond your current rank. You will no longer need to bow to me. You will be advanced 3 official ranks. What do you say? This was enormous. Lin Chuan had been a marquis. A duke sat above him in the hierarchy. Shui Kei was offering to leapfrog the duke and elevate him to princely rank. Generous didn't begin to describe it. Lin Chuan's mind raced as he considered the implications. He was about to speak when Shui Kei added, "There's one more thing. Bring it here." A servant appeared with a brocaded tray covered in red cloth. Lin Chuan lifted the fabric. A clear, blue triangular crystal sat on the plate, palm-sized, carved like a piece of sapphire. It pulsed with an inner radiance, strange energy rippling from it like waves. "This is," Lin Chuan breathed. "It is called the Vast Sea Universe Cover," Shui Kei said. "A soul guide and a national treasure of the Tiando Empire. I offer it to the Prince of Zhenbei as a symbol of your title." The meaning was unmistakable. Accepting this relic meant accepting the title and, with it, a bond to the Tiando Empire. If the Empire ever required aid, the Prince of Zhenbei would be expected to answer. Ning Fengji's plan had been shrewd. If he had suggested the gift, he knew how tightly it would bind Lin Chuan. Watching Lin Chuan's expression shift, Ning allowed himself a quiet satisfaction. Lin Chuan's hand hovered over the crystal for a moment before he accepted it with a modest bow. "Your Highness, thank you." He could not refuse. The crystal was not merely a token, but a key to the divine inheritance. Refusing would be unwise. Shui Kei and Ning shared an almost imperceptible look of triumph. The price had been high, but the outcome was worth it. "From now on, I shall call you Prince," Ning Fengji said, inclining his head in sincere congratulations. "You flatter me, Master Ning," Lin Chuan replied with a smile. "We will make the conferment public immediately and hold a grand ceremony for the Prince of Zhenbei," Shui Kei added. "No need for ceremony," Lin Chuan interrupted quickly. "The Empire is in turmoil. It is not a time to spend resources on pomp. Besides, I prefer to keep things simple. Let's not make a show of it." Shui Kei and Ning exchanged a look, then agreed. "If the prince wishes no ceremony, then so be it," Ning said. Shui Kei nodded. They spoke a while longer, smoothing the new relationship into place. When Lin Chuan rose to leave, both Shui Kei and Ning Fengji personally walked him to the palace gate, a courtesy that spoke volumes. "Take care, Prince of Zhenbei," Shui Kei said softly. "Your Highness, there is no need to escort me further," Lin Chuan replied. "If anything important comes up, send word to Shuiyuan City, and I will come at once." He owed them for the gift, after all. Shui Kei's face lit with a pleased smile. "I've taken note. If need be, I won't be formal with the prince." As they reached the gate, Ning Fengji paused and said, "Your Highness, I would like to ask a favor. I hope to send my daughter to study at Tianshui College as an exchange student. Will the prince see to her?" Lin Chuan's eyes grew thoughtful. Ning's humility was genuine. His request was a clear olive branch. The Seven Treasures Glazed sect wishes to bury past grudges with the Yi family and turn enmity into friendship, Ning added, bowing. "Please convey this, Your Highness." Lin Chuan considered for a moment and sighed softly. "I will bring it to the Yi family. Whether they accept is not mine to guarantee. Tianshui College welcomes exchanges. Anyone may come to study." Ning Fengji relaxed into a smile. "Thank you, Prince. Thank you." Chapter 172. The storm is coming back at Keking Courtyard. Douluo came to the door at once. "Hiss! I can't believe you were made a king with a different surname. That's something else." Hearing what Shui Kei had done, Douluo was stunned. Since the founding of the Tiando Empire, it had only ever been divided into 4 kingdoms. The Balak kingdom shared blood with the Tiando royals. the others had never been founded by great military heroes. Now Lin Chuan had been made a king with a different surname as well. But thinking it through, if they had not intervened, Wuhun Palace would likely have succeeded long ago, and the whole empire would have fallen into other hands. So in the end, a title without added territory was more a political maneuver than a true elevation. Senior Dugu, you're surprised too soon. It's only a name. The territory hasn't increased. It's just a way to win hearts. Lin Chuan curled his lip, sounding sober. Dugu Bo gave a dry chuckle. You're level-headed beyond your years. I thought a title like that might dazzle you, but you accepted it voluntarily after knowing everything, didn't you? There was nothing else to do. Shui Ke gave me far too much. Lin Chuan shrugged helplessly. I don't care much about the kingship itself. The important thing is the other thing he offered that I can't refuse. With that, he flicked his right hand and produced the vast sea universe shield out of thin air. The azure triangular barrier bathed the room in a deep sea blue light. The gentle shimmering was dazzling to the eyes. This is a soul guide? Dugu Bo, who kept well informed, could guess what the object was. Yes, it's called the Vast Sea Universe Shield, one of the Tiando Empire's national treasures. Lin Chuan gave a brief nod and summed up the triangle's significance. Is it that valuable? Dugu Bo asked. This is no ordinary soul guide, Lin Chuan said with a small smile. Senior Dugu, do you remember the token I got from the Tiando treasury last time? Impossible. Dugu Bo's breath hitched. His eyes went hot. Lin Chuan smiled and nodded. Exactly as you guessed. Since Shui Ke voluntarily offered such a treasure, there was no reason for me to refuse. Your luck really makes me envious. Dugu Bo's voice dropped, his gaze becoming strange. If the Tiando Empire knew that the two treasures drawn from the treasury were tied to gods, they would surely regret the oversight. So you're going to try to earn the gods' recognition yourself? Dugu Bo asked. Lin Chuan put the shield away and shook his head. I already took that test. I probably can't be tested again for a while, but it's perfect for Binger and the others. This godly position suits them. You're really willing to give it up. Dugu Bo's tone was calm, but his eyes were clearly displeased. Ahem. Now that things in Do City have been settled and the Wuhun Palace plot exposed, we shouldn't act rashly for a while. Let's return to Snowfield City for now. Lin Chuan cleared his throat and deftly changed the subject. Dugu Bo snorted, but said no more. The two of them left Tiando City, and after a travel-stained journey, they arrived back in Snowfield City. Xiao Chuan, Dugu Mian, you're back. Shui Lanqin hurried forward at the news and, after confirming they were unharmed, exhaled in relief. But the relief quickly hardened into a grave expression. Is it true? Everything that happened in Tiando City, is it true? Did Emperor Shuye really die? Even having heard the news days earlier, she still couldn't shake the disbelief. Lin Chuan nodded. It's true. Wuhun Palace's seraph sent assassins to kill Prince Shui Qinghe and then used his identity to infiltrate Tiando City. Emperor Shuye was killed by them. The fourth Prince Shui Beng and Prince Shui Xing were also murdered, and now Princess Shui Ke sits on the throne. This is unbelievable. The Wuhun Palace's actions were terror incarnate. They've been plotting for over a decade at least. Their ambition is blatant. They've stopped pretending to hide it. This is only the beginning. They won't remain quiet for long. Yi Lingling's grandfather, Gu Yi, frowned in deep worry. Xiao Chuan, is that why you asked me to train an army? Shui Lanqin asked softly. Lin Chuan nodded. Yes, Wuhun Palace could start a war within 10 years at most. When it comes, both empires will be affected. We can't hope to survive alone. If he stood alone, he could retreat to an assessment place and train quietly until the mainland stabilized. But the Ye and Shui families were too large to shelter in isolation. Their prominence would draw trouble. A troubled time is coming, Shui Lanqin said with a weary sigh. The thought that a war could sweep the entire continent down the line made everyone in the hall feel the weight of impending storm. For a moment, the front hall fell silent. Shui Lanqin, Gu Yi, and Ye Rong were filled with concern. The younger ones, having never faced such a threat, were unsettled and uncertain. Lin Chuan clapped his hands suddenly, breaking the heavy mood. Don't be so pessimistic. We can't change what's already set in motion. All we can do is grow stronger so we can survive whatever storm comes. Ye Rong brightened. Xiao Chuan is right. The Ye family will assist the Shui family and recruit every able-bodied soldier we can to prepare. It's family, Lin Chuan agreed, so we won't be careless. But don't overreach. The army's main role will be to protect the civilians in our territories. Leave the rest to me. High-end combat power decides wars in the end, he thought, though a territorial militia would still be vital. There's some good news, Shui Lanqin added. With your title as King of Zhenbei, recruiting troops and soul masters will be much easier. Lin Chuan raised an eyebrow. The title is minor. The biggest gain this time is this. He waved, and the vast sea universe shield floated back into the center of the hall, casting its soft blue light around them. The moment it appeared, every eye fixed on it. Lin Chuan looked at the girls with a smile. Binger, don't you want to win the gods' approval? Like Yanzi's Earth God Order, those are legacies of the gods. Once approved, you can begin the Poseidon 9 exams. Huh, another god-related thing? The room buzzed with excitement. Which is more powerful, the sea god or Sister Yan's Earth god? Shui Yuer asked, curious. Lin Chuan explained, the gods in the divine world can be divided into levels. The weakest are priests, who don't yet hold a divine station. Becoming a god typically requires reaching level 100 in soul power, mastering divine skill, and entering the god realm. Above that are gods with divine status, which rank from 3rd level up through 2nd and 1st, and finally god kings. Lingling's 9 trials of life are at the god king level. Earth's god and Poseidon are both 1st level gods. Everyone absorbed that carefully. I didn't realize there was such a detailed hierarchy, Du Gubo murmured. Gu Yi nodded in agreement. I used to think becoming a god at level 100 was just a legend. After Lingling inherited hers, I learned there are even more powerful tiers above gods. Before, we only watched from below. Lin Chuan offered a small smile. Don't belittle yourselves. The lack of information keeps these matters hidden from the public. In truth, the mainland hosts many divine inheritances. He listed them off. There's the angel god inheritance tied to Wuhun Palace's seraphic line, the Poseidon inheritance from the overseas Poseidon Island, and the Shura inheritance from the fallen city, the City of Slaughter. The vast sea universe shield we have here relates to Poseidon Island. The group took in this new breadth of knowledge with a collective intake of breath. Xiao Chuan, did you obtain the Poseidon inheritance? Shui Lanqin asked. Lin Chuan shook his head. I already passed the test, so I'm leaving the chance to Binger and the others to try. You can go see whether the shield accepts you. He wasn't sure the Tianshui team would be recognized. The requirements were unknown. But thinking it through, Shui Binger's situation was promising. Her soul bone was only 100,000-year gap behind Tong San's in the original tale, and in many other ways she was stronger. Plus, her ice phoenix was a top-tier beast spirit. If anybody there could be recognized by Poseidon, it might be her. Brother Chuan, this is too precious. You should take it yourself. Shui Binger said, eager but hesitant. Lin Chuan's expression turned serious. Binger, do you want to be left behind by us? I'm already at level 90 soul power, and Lingling is at level 70. You can't catch up to us by mere practice alone. Taking the test is the only way. And I've already taken that test. I likely can't participate in another god's test right now. Besides, the Poseidon trial is in the sea. It's the perfect environment for you to train. Don't refuse it. Du Guyan teased from the side. Xiao Chuan's right. If Binger is too polite, then Lingling, Xiao Chuan, and I will all become gods and leave. You haven't even become a titled Douluo yet. You'll regret hesitating. That's not fair. Before Binger could answer, Shui Yuer shot into motion, jealous and furious at the idea of her romantic rival ascending with Lin Chuan and leaving her behind. If Binger won't do it, I will. She grabbed for the vast sea universe shield. Xiao Chuan, how do I get recognized? Just try injecting a little soul power, Lin Chuan instructed. Wasting no time, Shui Yuer poured some spiritual power into the shield. The instant her power touched the vast sea surface, an indescribable force pushed back and rebounded her energy, sending her stumbling a few steps. She looked dizzy, clutching at her head. Yuer, are you all right? Shui Lanqin sprang to support her, worry in her eyes. I'm fine, Yuer said with a weak smile, but she focused on Lin Chuan and demanded, Xiao Chuan, what happened? Why did it push me back? Lin Chuan shrugged helplessly and sighed quietly. It's a pity, Yuer. You weren't recognized. Chapter 173, Sea God's Inheritance. Ah! Shui Yuer muttered, her face falling. She had prepared herself for the possibility, but the sting of failure still showed. It's all right, Yuer, Shui Lanqin soothed quietly. Lin Chuan added quickly, don't be discouraged. Failing to be recognized doesn't stop you from taking part in the trials. If you perform well in the upcoming tests, other gods might still favor you. Hearing that, Shui Yuer's expression eased. Shui Wu, why don't you try? Shui Wu swallowed and stepped forward. None of them refused. All of the girls wanted a shot, even if hope was faint. Shui Wu held the triangular vast sea cosmic shield, exactly as Lin Chuan had instructed, and poured her soul power into it. Like Shui Yuer, she was abruptly repelled. She sighed. I failed too. One by one, Yu Hairo, Shen Luyu, Gu Qingbo, and Chu Roshui tried the same, met with the same rebounding force, and the same failure. Only Shui Binger remained. For a moment, the entire room hung on her. Lin Chuan looked at her gently. You're the last one, Binger. Give it a try. Shui Binger didn't hesitate. She took a steadying breath, folded her hands around the azure shield, and carefully probed it with her spirit. A tremendous force struck back. She staggered instinctively. Shui Lanqin's brow tightened. Even Binger couldn't? Lin Chuan's eyes brightened. No, she's been recognized. Before anyone could react, the shield's tip slammed against Shui Binger's forehead. She went limp and toppled backwards. Lin Chuan was quicker. He caught her and supported her weight as the shield, triangular and sharp, tore a tiny hole in her pale skin. Blue light flared and blood was drawn out, streaming into the shield. The light around the artifact shifted from blue to a deep blood red. Lin Chuan squeezed Shui Binger's hand, and a warm green glow spread from him into her. A potent life force poured into her body, offsetting what the shield had taken. No one around made a sound. They watched, tense and breathless. A faint blue radiance rose from the shield and resolved into a hazy shadow, the same kind of manifestation that had accompanied Duguyan's recognition by the Earth God's order. An ancient, plain voice spoke. At last I have found a worthy descendant, one with the strength to bear the vast sea. Huh? The shadow murmured, and then its gaze swept over Lin Chuan, Duguyan, and Ye Lingling. What fortune! The goddess of life and the Earth God have also chosen such outstanding successors. I shall not be outdone. The blue apparition evaporated into light and flowed back into the shield. The halo around the artifact contracted and sank into Shui Binger's palm, and the life force instantly closed the wound on her forehead. Though much blood had been drawn, Lin Chuan's replenishment had prevented any lasting harm. After a few breaths, Shui Binger stirred and opened her eyes. What just happened? She asked, rubbing her brow as she sat up. Smiles broke out around her. Congratulations, Binger, Lin Chuan whispered. You've been recognized by the vast sea cosmic shield. Your trials begin now. You must go to Poseidon Island and take the sea god's 9 tests. Binger's confusion melted into joy. I succeeded? Yes, Lin Chuan said, smiling, as everyone else chimed in their congratulations. Though disappointed at their own failures, the other girls were genuinely happy for her. Envy, if any, was restrained. Try channeling your spirit power into it, Lin Chuan suggested. Shui Binger nodded and did so. Brilliant blue light erupted. The shield seemed to awaken. Mists of precious light swirled, and its surface shimmered with strange patterns. The room filled with water-like ripples of blue luminosity. Everyone, except Lin Chuan, Duguyan, and Ye Lingling, felt their hearts tremble with awe, a deep resonance of the martial soul. The blue light gathered around Shui Binger, strengthening her silently. After a while, she opened her eyes again. A blue gleam flashed from her pupils as the shield transformed into a stream of cold light and sank into the center of her brow. Brother Chuan, I gained 4 soul skills, she reported, voice still a little unsteady. Boundless Sea Body Shield, for invisibility and defense. Qiankun Dingshan Shield, a lock-on control ability. Boundless Sea Raging Waves, a group attack. And Qiankun Breaking Demon, a single-target strike. Duguyan's expression shifted to surprise. That's similar to my Earth God's order. Lin Chuan chuckled softly. Those are incidental soul abilities. What matters more is the core skill, and you'll understand that as you cultivate it. Though the soul skills were undeniably potent, Lin Chuan had expected this. A weapon of the gods should be strong. He clapped lightly. Since Binger has been recognized, we should prepare. In a few days, I'll take you all to Poseidon Island for the trials." The girls' excitement flared again. Juju King, who rarely showed emotion, surprised everyone by speaking up with an eager edge. "Brother Chuan, may I come with you?" Lin Chuan guessed her motive. She had benefited from the Earth God's recognition before, and now hoped to gain more from the Sea God as well, but he kept his expression neutral. A profit if it worked, no great loss if it failed. After a moment, he nodded. "I can try to take you. There's no rule saying that having finished one god's trial bars you from another." Juju Qing's face lit up with an uncommon smile. Lin Chuan watched it, then looked away. What mattered more was that Shui Binger had finally been recognized, her efforts rewarded. "Rest and prepare in the next few days," Lin Chuan told them. "This journey will be long. You probably won't be able to return during the tests. Make peace with your families and settle your affairs." The reminder sobered the room. The Sea God's 9 tests were no small matter. From Du Guyan and Ye Lingling's descriptions, each trial had time limits and could last years. Leaving was a serious decision, separation from relatives and friends for an extended period. Still, with an opportunity like this, none of the girls would give it up. "Xiao Chuan, they're in your hands now," Shui Lanqin said softly. Lin Chuan smiled in reassurance. "Don't worry, Dean. I'll see them safely to Poseidon Island. I won't stay, but I'll ensure they get there. The trials are dangerous, but if they are careful, survival is possible." Shui Lanqin exhaled, relieved. "I only hope they grow stronger from this. Soon they'll need every ounce of confidence for the coming war." They fell quiet for a moment. These trials were a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Even elders knew there was little they could do but manage affairs at home and wait for their return. Lin Chuan then broached a different subject. "By the way, Aunt Ye, when I was in Tiando City, I ran into Ning Fengji of the Qibao Glazed sect. He seemed intent on making peace with the Ye family. What do you think?" The question dimmed Ye Rong's and Gu Yi's faces. Ning Fengji is all calculation," Gu Yi said coldly. "When the Ye family was weak, the Qibao Glazed sect bullied us in every way. Now that we're recovering strength, he suddenly wants peace? Shameless." Ye Rong's expression hardened. "They're not concerned about the Ye family. They're concerned about you, Xiao Chuan." She nodded at Lin Chuan. "We haven't hidden the fact that we're allied with you. Given your strength, it's natural they want to pacify us. It's probably Ning Fengji's doing." Lin Chuan waved a hand. "I won't interfere in your decision. Whether to accept the Qibao Glazed sect's peace is up to you." Gu Yi thought for a moment, then said sharply, "Old Poison, come with me to the Qibao Glazed sect. Let's see what Ning Fengji intends." "All right," Dugubo answered without hesitation. Chapter 174. Be Self-Reliant. After their conversation, Dugubo and Gu Yi left Shuiwan City together. It looked like they were going to speak with Ning Fengji. Whether the 7 Treasures Glazed Tile sect and the Ye family would reconcile would depend entirely on those negotiations. Lin Chuan had learned from Ye Rong that in the past, the sect had only suppressed the Ye family's reputation and businesses, not slaughtered them. Even if there was resentment, it was not irreparable. If Ning Fengji was willing to pay a price, a settlement was possible. Lin Chuan wasn't worried about the safety of Gu Yi and Du Gubo. With the 7 Treasures Glazed Tile sect's intelligence network, the sect must be well aware of his relationship with them. As long as Ning Fengji's head was on straight, he wouldn't make a reckless move now. "Get ready. We'll depart after the 2 seniors return," he said. The women all nodded, then hurried off to inform their families. This sort of matter required telling one's relatives first. Lin Chuan turned to Shui Lanqin and Ye Rong. "Dean, Aunt Ye, please take care of Shuiwan City. I'll send Binger and the others to Sea God Island and come back." "Don't worry, we're here," Shui Lanqin replied. "You don't need to fret over the city." "Sister Ye is right. I'll leave those kids to you, Xiao Chuan," Ye Rong added. With Shui Lanqin and Ye Rong, and the support of the Ye and Shui families, Lin Chuan could leave the city in good hands. After a brief discussion, they all parted. There were still many things to handle locally. "I'm planning to go to the Sunset Forest. Lingling and Juking only need soul rings. Come with me. Yanzi, you're coming, right?" Lin Chuan asked. Du Guyan nodded without hesitation. "You're all going. You can't leave me behind." "Then it's settled. Let's go." The 4 of them set off for the Sunset Forest without delay. It had been a long time since they'd been there. Juqing, what kind of soul beast are you hunting for? Lin Chuan asked as they walked through the forest. They moved in a relaxed manner, more like tourists than hunters. The Sunset Forest didn't have many 10,000-year soul beasts. Most were under 50,000 years, and with Lin Chuan's current strength, they posed little threat. Zhu Qing pursed her red lips. Anything that's fast. All right, let's look for one. Lin Chuan activated the mystery of life. Green light spread from his body, and thousands of motes of light fell to the forest floor. The blue-silver grass at his feet began to sway. Soon, the surrounding plants responded too. Under the mystery of life, the forest's information opened up to him. Found it. After a few breaths, he looked up. There's a 20,000-year soul beast about 5 kilometers away. It should be perfect for Zhu Qing. Then let's go. Don't let it get away. Duguyan rubbed his hands together, eager. Locked by Lin Chuan's sense, the beast had no chance to slip away. The four of them cut through the trees and covered the 5 kilometers in a flash. Perched on a large branch, they located the soul beast in the undergrowth, a ghost leopard. The animal's fur was a black-purple sheen under the sunlight, its body slender and more than 10 feet long, muscles rippling beneath the coat. Its appearance radiated menace. Lucky find. A ghost leopard, fast and strong. It's just over 20,000 years old. Perfect, Lin Chuan said. 20,000 years exceeded the theoretical cutoff for a 6th soul ring, but Zhu Qing had trained her body in the Earth Temple. It should be absorbable. Brother Chuan, I want to try this one myself, Zhu Qing said suddenly. Go ahead. Lin Chuan smiled and granted her request. Thank you. She smiled back, then possessed her spirit, melted into a black shadow, and streaked along the treetops toward the ghost leopard. The beast was initially relaxing, licking its coat, when it suddenly sprang to alert. Its fur bristled, and it roared. Such strong momentum. Are you sure it's safe to let Zhu Qing fight it alone? Du Guyan asked, frowning beside Lin Chuan. Watch for now, Lin Chuan answered, not in a hurry to intervene. A 10,000-year beast corresponds to the Soul King realm and 20,000 to a Soul Emperor. Zhu Qing's current strength matched this leopard. Whether she could win depended on her approach. There was no binding constraint in a one-on-one fight. Anyone could win. Zhu Qing showed no fear. Her claws shot out and her speed doubled. She attacked like a shadow. Good, she's decisive, Lin Chuan observed with surprise. The girl fought without hesitation, as if this 10,000-year beast were nothing. The ghost leopard reacted quickly, lunging forward. Zhu Qing's claw swiped and sliced 5 deep marks in its back. Blood sprayed. The beast howled, eyes blazing, and lunged to bite her. 100 claws of the netherworld, Zhu Qing cried, spinning. Her cat-like claws, charged with soul power, created a flurry of cold claws and winds that swept across the leopard's face. The collision kicked up smoke and dust. A black shadow shot out of the clouds, slammed to the ground, and skidded several times before stabilizing. Zhu Qing. She looked shaken. Her arm was twisted and bleeding. Xiao Chuan, Du Guyan called out in alarm. Lin Chuan shook his head gently. Don't worry. If she can't finish it, I'll step in. But don't count her out yet. The ghost leopard's injured too. The beast threw back its head and roared again, this time with venomous anger. A violent wind cleared the dust. The ghost leopard reappeared, one eyelid scarred and blinded. It charged with even greater fury. Zhu Qing endured the pain, met its charge with cold eyes, and a soul ring flared. Nether Shadow Clone. A dark light erupted, and more than 10 clones of her materialized from thin air. They looked identical to the real Zhu Qing, even sharing the same aura, physical bodies, not illusions. From appearances alone, it was impossible to tell which was genuine, though Lin Chuan could still perceive the true body. All of you, go! Each clone whispered in tandem and leapt to attack. Some assaulted from the air, while others landed and closed in. The ghost leopard roared, and a dark aura bloomed around its body. Its speed and ferocity spiked, claw shadows slicing outward. Many clones were pierced before they could react. Suddenly, one figure darted behind the leopard and slashed its abdomen. The beast turned and found the front. Zhu Qing was only a clone. A surge of soul power followed from behind. Netherworld slash! Zhu Qing cried, hands clasped above her head as the claw blades on her fingers merged into a 1-foot-long black light blade and cleaved downward. Boom! The blade hit true, smashing a crater into the earth and sending the leopard reeling. Blood gushed from its mouth. It howled in wounded fury. The dark light around it flared. The netherworld slash was formidable, but not fatal. A black shadow flickered, and Juju King's figure split into two. No blood spilled. The shadow melted into black-purple light and dispersed. "No slow, but good combat sense," Lin Chuan said quietly, eyes bright with praise. The fifth skill, Netherworld Blade Shadow. Two shadows moved in unison. Juju King's body and one clone became black smears that streaked through the leopard's flesh, slashing back and forth. Claw shadows raked everywhere. The beast shrieked as wounds opened all over, some deep enough to reveal bone. Soul power poured into the gashes, ravaging its body. When her assault finally ceased, Juju King was panting. Most of her soul power had been consumed. The Netherworld Blade Shadow was a 10,000-year skill and extremely draining. Splitting into so many clones had exhausted her reserves. She remained on guard, though, watching the leopard. Blood pooled under the beast. Internal organs and fragments fell to the ground. Even gravely wounded, the ghost leopard stayed on its feet and advanced step by step. It seemed sure Juju King was no longer a threat. With one last desperate rush, it lunged, jaws open to swallow her whole. Juju King tried to dodge, but her legs felt like lead. They no longer obeyed. "So far, you've done very well," a gentle voice said in her ear. A hand suddenly reached out and tapped the ghost leopard lightly on the head. The leopard, which had been ferocious a moment before, went limp and slumped, knocked unconscious by that single touch. Chapter 175. Cat is completely at peace? After Yelingling's treatment, Juju King immediately brightened. Lin Chuan had seen powerful healers before in the Soto City Grand Soul fighting arena, but only now did he truly understand how extraordinary the strongest healing spirits could be. "Thank you," Juju King said quietly. Yelingling waved her hand. "You're welcome." Neither of them were talkative by nature, but they didn't hide what they felt. "All right, let's absorb the soul ring first." Juju King nodded and looked down at the dying ghost leopard. Lin Chuan's strike had crushed it, but it had stirred as they approached. Deep hatred flashed in its beastly eyes, an almost human expression that left Juju King stunned. She had expected animals to be fierce, but never to show such conscious malice. This was the first 10,000-year soul beast Juju King had personally hunted. Its intelligence was higher than she'd imagined. She composed herself, spread her sharp claws, and crushed the beast's skull. Black streams of light gathered from the corpse and coalesced into a dark soul ring. A flicker of fire danced in Juju King's eyes. She forced herself to calm, sat cross-legged beside the carcass, and let the soul ring fall onto her body. The absorption process had begun. "This'll probably take a while," Lin Chuan said, feeling the obvious fluctuations of soul power from where he sat nearby. Today's fight, if it could be called that, had been thrilling, and Juju King's tactical sense had impressed him. Rescuing her from the Star Luo Empire and keeping her by his side had clearly been the right choice. While they waited, they chatted idly. "Xiao Chuan, what kind of soul skill will Ju King get from that?" someone asked. Lin Chuan thought about the battle and smiled. "The ghost leopard amplified itself during the fight. I'd bet on an auxiliary amplification soul skill." The ghost leopard specialized in speed and attack. If Juju King acquired an amplification skill, those attributes would likely be enhanced, exactly what an agility and attack-type soul master needed. Yelingling still didn't have a suitable soul ring nearby. They might have to wait until they sailed toward Poseidon Island and hunted sea soul beasts. Water-type beasts there often had skills useful to healers, too. "You can't just stand around. Let's eat," Duguyan suggested. There was no telling how long the absorption would take, and the beast's flesh and blood were packed with energy. They wouldn't waste it. Lin Chuan produced a dagger from his storage soul guide and began to dismember the ghost leopard. As he worked on the left hind leg, his blade suddenly stuck. "Huh?" Lin Chuan raised his eyebrows in surprise. With 3 quick strokes, he finished the cut, and a faint purple light drifted out from the meat. It was a left leg bone, shimmering with an inner purple hue and radiating a strong aura. A soul bone? Duguyan and Yelingling sighed with envy. Even a century-old soul bone was valuable, let alone one from a 10,000-year soul beast. Fortunately, both of them already carried soul bones of their own that matched this one in age. Lin Chuan barely glanced at it before losing interest. It wasn't particularly useful to him, and since it had fallen from the ghost leopard, it belonged to the one who'd claimed the beast. Since it came from the ghost leopard, give it to Zhu King when she wakes, Lin Chuan said. They all agreed. 3 days later, Zhu King emerged from cultivation. A surge of soul power poured through her. Level 62 soul power, she announced, a smile breaking across her face. Congratulations, Lin Chuan said quietly from the side. Zhu Qing looked at him with genuine gratitude. Thank you, Brother Chuan. If you hadn't saved me, I might already have been captured by the Star Luo Empire. I wouldn't have become a soul emperor so quickly. Thank you. Lin Chuan felt a satisfied warmth at her sincerity. You're following me now. You can't afford to be weak. If you're too weak, you'll be left behind. He handed her the purple leg bone. This fell from the ghost leopard. Absorb it. Zhu Qing stared at the soul bone in her hands, stunned. She knew better than anyone how precious soul bones were. An item like this could change a soul master's destiny. Lin Chuan could have kept it secret, but he'd given it to her without hesitation. Something small and fierce tightened in her chest. I'll grow stronger, she thought. Even if I can't always keep up with you, I'll clear the path ahead. One day, maybe I'll stand by your side properly. A brief, bright resolve flashed in her eyes, and she hid it almost immediately. Lin Chuan didn't notice the change, but Du Guyan, who had been watching, did. He paused, then shrugged and displayed mock helplessness. Xiao Chuan, you really are to blame, Du Guyan teased. Ah? Lin Chuan blinked. Why's that all of a sudden? Du Guyan snorted playfully. Think about it yourself. Come on, Zhu King Lingling, let's go. Pay no attention to this playboy. With that, he looped an arm around Zhu King and walked into the trees. Woman, Lin Chuan muttered, shaking his head, but he followed. They needed to find a suitable soul beast for Ye Lingling. For several days, they scoured the sunset forest, but results were disappointing. Lin Chuan thought Ye Lingling could now absorb at least 60,000-year soul rings, and with life energy, possibly even older, but such beasts were rare in the forest. The few they found were wrong in type for her healing specialties. Even though Ye Lingling's life tongue only granted healing skills, she was cautious. She didn't want to risk weaker or mismatched attributes. They decided to look in the sea instead, where water soul beasts might be ideal. Lin Chuan agreed. Although the soul-hunting leg of the journey was over, Lin Chuan still wanted to visit the yin-yang Eye of Ice and Fire. He had planted the blue-silver emperor there 2 years ago and was curious how it had grown. Passing through the poison formation Dugubo had set, he led the 3 women into the yin-yang Eye again. Ye Lingling halted, sensing something strange in the air. She held the life tang in both hands. Its leaves shimmered, and a curtain of light formed around them, masking their auras from the yin-yang Eye's presence. Chapter 177. Mission completed. It's done. Lin Chuan stepped out of the cave slowly, a faint heat lingering around him. The 3 women waiting outside felt the warmth wash over them and made a small, involuntary sound. Xiao Chuan, you're finally out, Du Guyan said, licking her lips with a smile. Lin Chuan returned the smile. Sorry to keep you worried. It worked. You were in there such a long time. What were you doing? Du Guyan pressed. Ye Lingling and Zhu King exchanged curious looks, their lips pursed. I made a few small things. He looked pleased, almost smug. Under the 3 women's expectant gazes, he lightly flicked his sleeve. A small blue bead appeared out of thin air and hovered before them, flickering with gold and sapphire light. Within the bead, several lifelike leaves of blue-silver emperor grass drifted in miniature. What does it do? Du Guyan reached out and touched the bead. It was cold, but otherwise unremarkable to ordinary senses. Ye Lingling, however, frowned in surprise as she focused her perception. So much life energy. Lingling felt it, Lin Chuan said. This is an artifact I refined from the right leg bone of a 100,000-year blue-silver emperor. You can use it as a soul guide. You can make a soul guide? Zhu King's eyes went wide. Soul guiding technology had largely been lost. Most soul guides on the market were unearthed relics, usually too damaged to be repaired. It's similar to a soul guide, Lin Chuan replied, but the ceiling of this artifact is much higher. Du Guyan's interest sharpened. You're extravagant. using 100,000-year soul bone just to make a soul guide. But what exactly does this bead do? Lin Chuan smiled, then activated the bead with his soul power. A wash of gold and blue light burst out, enveloping him. Yanzi, try attacking me, he told Duguyan. Duguyan blinked, then nodded eagerly. All right, then I won't hold back. With a warning tone, she surrendered to her martial spirit. A handsome dragon claw took form and struck toward Lin Chuan, but it met a shimmering golden-blue barrier and slammed into it with a thunderous impact. The light screen rippled like water, but held firm. Lin Chuan grinned. Don't hold back, Yanzi. Use everything you have. I want to see the limit of its defense. Fine. Don't cry when I beat you, she shot back, and then roared, Green phosphorus dragon roar! The black spirit ring on Duguyan's arm flared. Darkness swathed her, and a poisonous yellow-green energy surged forth, a heavy, earth-tinged toxin that exploded through the air. It slammed into the light curtain in a wave of force that cracked the ground out from under them. The earth buckled and fissures raced outward. Ye Lingling and Juju King had already stepped back and were safe. The energy gradually dissipated over a dozen breaths until it vanished entirely. Duguyan exhaled hard and looked up. Lin Chuan was unharmed, smiling at her. You blocked it and it didn't even break, she said in astonishment. That had been one of her heaviest blows. Of course. Lin Chuan's smile widened. This is something I refined over several days. If it couldn't stop a Soul Emperor's 10,000-year soul technique, all that work would have been for nothing. He was pleased with the bead made from the blue-silver Emperor bone. The shield had taken no obvious strain to maintain, and it hadn't demanded much soul power. Lin Chuan estimated it could easily withstand an ordinary title Douluo's attack. But that was only its most basic function. This bead can condense the Earth's life energy and feed it back to speed up cultivation and restore soul power in battle, he explained. It can also release all its stored life force at once into the bearer, temporarily granting an immortal-like body, rapid self-recovery even from grievous wounds. Of course, using that will damage the bead. It needs repair afterward. It can also emit a strange light that suppresses miasma and poison, isolate your breathing, or even render you invisible. And it can slowly repair itself by absorbing plant vitality, and might even evolve. That's, Ye Lingling murmured. Amazing. Lin Chuan's face softened. He had hoped for one more thing, the birth of a weapon spirit, but it had not manifested yet. Still, the bead's abilities alone made it far from a waste of 100,000-year soul bone. I'll call it Lan Yinzu, he said, then, unexpectedly, he slid the blue bead into his mouth and swallowed it. At the same moment, a pair of black wings unfolded behind him, soft and plush to the eye. Duguyan reached up and brushed them curiously. What's this? Another artifact, Lin Chuan said. I refined these from the attached soul bone of the dark demon evil god Tiger. I call them the Wind and Thunder Wings. They combine wind, thunder, and evil attributes. They give the wearer flight and can release light blades and thunder for attack. The wings hummed. A hurricane surged, lifting Lin Chuan and pushing him through the air so quickly he broke the sound barrier. In a blink, he was a dark streak against the sky, a black shadow that left the three women awestruck. Wow, so fast! Duguyan gasped, the envy plain in her eyes. Even most titled Douluo couldn't sustain flight as speedily or as long as that. After a few moments of showing off, Lin Chuan slowed and descended. Duguyan ran forward, wrapped her arms around his and squeezed him, then stood on tiptoe and kissed his cheek. Lin Chuan froze, suddenly flushed. Xiao Chuan, take me flying. I want to feel it too. All right, hold on tight. He smiled and gathered her around his waist. The wings beat, and the two of them shot into the air. Her delighted screams echoed across the ice and fire eye. He took turns letting Ye Lingling and Juju King try as well. Then the four of them left the Eye of Ice and Fire and headed straight back to Snowfield City. The manor was already gathered when they arrived. Lin Chuan approached Gu Yi and Du Gu Bo. You're back. How did negotiations with the Qibao Glaze sect go? Gu Yi laughed, relief and joy in his voice. Ah, this is the first time Ningfengji has lowered himself like this. I haven't been this pleased in ages. Not only did Ningfengji apologize, he promised never to target the Ye family again, Gu Yi continued, bowing his thanks to Lin Chuan. More importantly, he suffered a lot. because of the actions of little friend Tuolin. On behalf of the Ye family, thank you. Lin Chuan helped the old man up. Senior Gu, you flatter me. Lingling and the others have also given me a lot of help. The Yi family has always been a tremendous support. None of this would have happened so smoothly without you. Gu Yi shook his head stubbornly. No matter what, the Ye family will never forget Lin Xiaoyou's kindness. In the future, the Yi family will stand by you through everything. Lin Chuan accepted the gratitude with a humble nod. Now that Senior Dugu has returned, it's time to set off. Let's get some rest tonight and leave for Poseidon Island tomorrow. Everyone readily agreed. Excitement buzzed through the group. The next morning, Ye Rong arranged a luxurious carriage drawn by 4 horses. The carriage could seat more than a dozen. Shui Lanqin and others came to see them off, and Leng Man from Tianshui College had been invited as well. Supplies enough for months were packed into the Soul Guide. There were the inevitable farewells. Be careful, Xiao Chuan, Shui Lanqin warned. Even Leng Man, stone-faced as ever, nodded. Lin Chuan promised, Don't worry, Director Leng. I'll be back as soon as I can. With that, they set out. A Ye family disciple drove the carriage. 4 mixed-blood soul horses pulled them west, leaving the city behind. Watching them go, those left at the gate looked solemn. I wonder if Binger and the others will find Sea God Island all right, Shui Lanqin said with a sigh, worried. Dugubo replied coldly but confidently, Don't worry, with Lin Chuan involved, those girls will be fine. By the time they come back, Tianshui College might well be the strongest academy after Wuhun. Shui Lanqin pursed her lips, smiling faintly. She only hoped the children returned safely. Strength was secondary. Poseidon Island lay at the westernmost sea of the Douluo Continent. To reach it, they would first travel by carriage to the farthest western town and then take a ship. The trip, barring detours, would take nearly 2 months. Complicating matters, very few knew the island's precise location. Only the Spirit Hall might hold that secret. They'd sent an invasion force there once and returned empty-handed, having lost nearly 2,000 soul masters, including 2 titled Douluo. That loss testified to the island's power. Inside the carriage, the girls clustered together, nervous and excited. Duguyan's descriptions had made the process of gaining a god's recognition sound simple, but higher-level trials were rare and difficult, and the greater the trial, the richer the reward. The thought of earning a god-given soul ring made their eyes shine. I'm not greedy, Yuhiro said softly. If I can get a black-level assessment, I'll be satisfied. The others gave her teasing looks. A black level was already second rank. Still, she felt proud to say it. I want the red-level assessment, Shuoyuer declared with a huff. Binger has already been recognized by Hanhai Hankunjiao. I can't be left behind. Lin Chuan smiled and shook his head. I'd like for all of you to pass black or even red-level assessments, but it's not that easy. In the original world, talent differences among the 4 elemental academies weren't small. 5 years later, Huo Wu reached only level 54, while Dai Mubai at a similar age had already attained level 64, with 6 black level tests passed. Getting to black level was a serious challenge. Zhu Juqing, for example, had only reached purple level assessment in the Earth Temple, but all the girls had taken the marrow-cleansing pill Lin Chuan had given them, so their chances were better than before. What can we do? The girls asked, anxious. Lin Chuan grinned. Don't be pessimistic. There is something that can help. The girls leaned forward, expectant. Lin Chuan reached into the storage soul guide and retrieved 3 small jade bottles. Don't gawk. These are for you. Take them and divide them. Binger and Yuer can skip these. He explained the contents. 3 elixirs made from Narcissus Jade Musclebone, Chirong Tongtian Chrysanthemum, and 8-petal Fairy Orchid. Each formula matched different fighting styles, sensitive attackers, heavy hitters, and support masters respectively. They were far more effective than the marrow-cleansing pill at maximizing each girl's natural aptitude. The girls cheered in delight. Brother Chuan, you're too kind. I'll marry you. Yuhiro joked, and the others giggled and echoed similar sentiments. Cut it out, Lin Chuan coughed, but he couldn't help smiling at their antics. Hurry and refine them. I can't promise you'll definitely get a higher assessment, but these will increase the chance. By the way, Qingbo, give one to Zhu King, he added. Zhu King froze, surprised that she had been considered. She hesitated, lips pursed as if to refuse out of shyness, but the chance to become stronger won out. "Thank you, Brother Chuan," she said sincerely. Lin Chuan waved his hand. "Although Juking joined late, I treat everyone equally. Now stop dawdling and break the elixirs down." The carriage rolled on toward the west, the mission set. Poseidon Island lay ahead, dangerous and mysterious, but their preparations were made, and hope rode with them. Chapter 178, Hanhai City. Long journeys were always tiring, but for soul masters, the strain was bearable. After days on the road, the group finally reached the westernmost city of the Tiando Empire, Hanhai City. It clung to the coastal mountains, built high enough to be safe from the tides. Even before they arrived, a faint salt tang rode the breeze. "We're here." When the curtain was lifted, the sprawling city came into view. Hanhai lay against the sea, its docks and terraced roofs visible even from a distance. "Is this Hanhai City?" one of the women asked, jumping from the carriage with the others. What a strange smell. A dozen faces wrinkled at once as the salty air filled their nostrils. Most of them had lived inland their whole lives. The seaside atmosphere felt unfamiliar and a little unsettling. "Brother Ye, you've done so much for us," one of the women said to the Yi family driver. "We'll probably stay on Poseidon Island for a long while. You don't have to wait. Go back to Shuiyuan City." The Ye family member bowed quickly. "Your Highness, it's my duty." Yerong had instructed him before departure to follow Lin Chuan's orders on the trip, so he didn't insist. As the carriage rolled away, Lin Chuan gave a last look and then turned to the group. "Let's go inside the city first to restock supplies and find out where Poseidon Island is," he said. They passed through the gate under the usual inspection. The city guards were momentarily stunned. 10 remarkably beautiful women, together with a calm young man and Dugu Yan, were not a sight they saw every day. The inspection was routine. Everything worth noting was tucked into soul guides. Once inside, the saltiness of the air intensified. They would be at sea soon enough. They had to get used to it. They drew attention wherever they walked. The combination of a man and 10 magnificent women formed an irresistible spectacle. The locals of Hanhai, darker skinned from coastal life, looked on curiously. The visitors' inland appearances set them apart. "Xiao Chuan, where are we going first?" Duguyan asked. Lin Chuan answered quietly. "Most of the supplies we took with us have been used. Yanzi split into 2 teams, one to the market to buy provisions, the other to the auction house to ask around about Poseidon Island." "Where are you headed, Brother Chuan?" Shui Binger asked. "I'll go to the docks to book passage. The fishermen go out all the time. They should know the nearby waters and maybe Poseidon Island." "All right. We'll meet at the entrance to the auction house later." After giving his instructions, Lin Chuan slipped out alone through Hanhai's west gate and down the reef road toward the docks. The path was bumpy, but the sight that met him at the harbor was worth it. Hanhai's docks were vast, dozens of piers, each stretching out hundreds of meters, with hundreds of ships moored to them. The fleet sustained a booming seafood trade and kept the city prosperous. Lin Chuan scanned the crowded harbor and focused on the larger sea vessels. They needed something sturdy for an open-sea voyage to Poseidon Island. Small fishing skiffs would never be safe in rough weather. "Young man, are you looking to charter a boat?" a cheerful voice called. He turned to see a middle-aged man of about 40 approaching with a broad smile. "Yes," Lin Chuan replied. "I plan to charter a vessel for the sea." The man's eyes brightened. "I'm a sea captain, been sailing these waters for more than 20 years. You can hire my ship. My crew and I will get you where you need to go." Lin Chuan listened. The man radiated no hostility. A quick appraisal told him the captain was only a soul master, not a threat. He nodded. "Show me your ship." The captain's grin widened. "My pleasure." They threaded through tightly packed boats until they stopped at a mid-sized vessel. The captain gestured proudly. "This is my ship, Sunshine of the Vast Sea." The boat looked weathered but well-maintained. Painted dark around the hull, it measured about 15 meters long and 12 meters tall, substantial for the harbor. It had a foremast with a horizontal sail and a mainmast with a vertical triangular sail. A lookout perch sat atop the foremast. Harpoon-mounted crossbows lined the deck edges, and the hull was reinforced with iron plating. Lin Chuan inspected the craft and found it satisfactory. The captain kept rubbing his hands, eager for an answer. It looks good, Lin Chuan said evenly. He could tell the crew numbered only 10, 4 of whom were soul masters of moderate rank. No malicious intent showed in their auras. These were seafarers, not pirates. Shall we settle terms? The captain asked. Not yet, Lin Chuan replied. Answer one question first. If you can satisfy me, I'll hire your boat. The captain hesitated, then nodded. Go ahead. I want to go to Poseidon Island. Do you know exactly where it is? For a moment, the captain's face registered surprise. Then he recovered and shook his head. Sorry, I don't know where that island is. You should ask someone else. Lin Chuan saw through the lie instantly. He knew why the captain would be reluctant. Poseidon Island had been the focus of a conflict when the Spirit Hall sent a 2,000-man force against it. The Sea Soul Masters considered the island sacred and were hostile to inland Soul Masters. The captain's sudden indifference was a bluff. I know why you're hesitant, Lin Chuan said. I'm not from the Spirit Hall. I'm the king of Zhenbei of the Tiando Empire. I'm only going to Poseidon Island to take its test. King of Zhenbei? The captain blinked, stunned. Hanhai was remote. Most common folk had little knowledge of court titles. The captain's composure cracked. Look, the important thing is, I'm not from the Spirit Hall, Lin Chuan continued. Surely Poseidon Island won't bar inland soul masters who aren't with the Spirit Hall from the test. The captain fell silent, then asked quietly, You're really not from the Spirit Hall? Lin Chuan rolled his eyes slightly. If I were, I wouldn't be asking you where the island is. The captain swallowed and finally confessed. I can take you to Poseidon Island. Lin Chuan smiled. Thank you. I'll charter your ship. I'll pay you well. But is the island's location common knowledge here in Hanhai? No. The captain shook his head, regret in his voice. I used to live on Poseidon Island. I was expelled when I failed the island's test at 18. So that's why he knew so much. Lin Chuan's expression showed understanding. The captain went on warningly, earnest now. I should tell you, going to Poseidon Island is dangerous. If you fail the test, you'll be expelled. If you pass, you'll pay a cost. Those who gain the island's favor often cannot leave Poseidon Island afterward. Doing so can bring the sea god's wrath. For land-born soul masters, the test will be even harder. Poseidon Island is a holy place for sea soul masters. It's not a place for ordinary training. Lin Chuan listened without flinching. It sounds daunting, but I've decided I must go. The captain sighed. If you've made up your mind, I won't stop you. I hope you succeed. He sounded sincere, but not optimistic. In all his years on the island, he'd never heard of a land soul master passing. The odds were slim. All right then, how soon can you leave? Give me 2 days to prepare, the captain said after a moment. We'll sail in 2 days. 2 days is fine. Lin Chuan produced a small pouch from thin air and flipped it into the captain's hand. Here's the deposit. The pouch was heavy with gold soul coins. 100 gold soul coins for the deposit. I'll pay half now and the remainder once we're at Poseidon Island. No problem. Meet me at the dock early in the morning in 2 days. They reached an agreement. Lin Chuan didn't worry that the captain might take the money and flee. Even from Hanhai City, his mental power could keep a watch on the harbor. If the captain tried to run, Lin Chuan could intercept him. Deceit, he thought, always had a price. With the ship secured and a crew that included a former islander, things had gone better than expected. In 2 days, they would head out to sea. Lin Chuan turned and vanished between the reefs, eager to tell the others the good news. Chapter 179, Sea God Island. Outside the Hanhai City auction house, a few young, pretty faces clustered by the door. When Lin Chuan approached, the girls brightened at once. Brother Chuan, you're back? Did you find a boat? Shui Binger asked, voice soft. Lin Chuan smiled and nodded. I rented a good ship. The owner needs 2 days to prepare, so we set off early the day after tomorrow. How are you all doing? Du Yan patted the soul guide at his waist. Supplies are enough. That should last 2 months. Binger and the others also got the precise location of Sea God Island from the auction house. Excellent, so we won't have to worry about the boat owner changing his mind. By the way, can you all swim? Lin Chuan remembered and asked. Du Yan looked embarrassed and shook his head. Ye Lingling and Ju King also admitted they couldn't. Shu Yuer, however, smiled lightly. We can all swim. It made sense. Tianshui College only accepted spirit masters with water and ice attributes, and there were lakes on campus. Swimming was common. Still, Lin Chuan wanted them prepared. With him along, they shouldn't face too much trouble, even against powerful sea soul beasts. Find a hotel and rest for 2 days, he told them. Get ready. On the way to Sea God Island, I'll look for soul rings for you. After taking the elixir, the girls' spirit power had leapt. Most of them rose above level 50. If they skipped the 6th dark level test, they could at least attempt the 4th. 2 days passed quickly, and on the morning of departure, Lin Chuan and the group arrived at the dock. Using his mental power to scout the surrounding ships, he found the sunshine of the vast sea. Wow, is this the ocean? It's so beautiful. Shui Yuer stood on the deck and watched the water, her eyes shining. The others shared her excitement and curiosity about the voyage. A middle-aged captain stepped out of the cabin and, seeing the group, gave a surprised whistle. "Young man, are these your companions?" "Yes, everyone's here. We can set off." "All right then, sail away." The sailors hustled, lifting anchor and raising the sails. The ship eased out of the harbor and the coast slipped away behind them. The Sunshine had 3 decks, 2 above and 1 below. Lin Chuan and the others took the better cabins above deck, though even the nicest sea cabin couldn't compare with land comforts. The salty tang of the sea settled in their noses, but after 2 days ashore, everyone had adjusted. The weather was fair and the sea calm. At first, the endless blue was awe-inspiring, but after a few hours, the girls began to tire of the unchanging horizon. Seasickness hit some of them, but Ye Lingling easily suppressed it with a life spirit pill. Checking their direction by the sun and a map, Lin Chuan confirmed they were on course for Sea God Island. The captain, experienced in these waters, had sailed here many times without trouble, but he wasn't complacent. "Brother, in about a day we'll enter the active area for sea soul beasts," he warned. "They don't often attack passing ships, but temperamental ones can. Prepare yourselves." Before Lin Chuan could answer, the lookout atop the main mast shouted. The captain's face tightened. On the calm surface, a huge dorsal fin surged through the water toward the Sunshine at terrifying speed, even cutting the waves. "It's a deep-sea shark," the captain muttered. "From that fin, it must be at least 10,000 years in cultivation." Lin Chuan stepped forward, oddly calm. "If it's here with bad intent, that's fine. It's exactly what we need. The age is perfect for a spirit ring." The shark exploded from the water and lunged at the ship, jaws open wide. If it struck squarely, it could have sheared the vessel in 2. "Get away," Lin Chuan roared. A dark streak flashed beneath the shark as he struck. He hit the beast hard on the forehead. The force hammered into its mind and stunned it. The shark cried out and thrashed, then collapsed back into the sea, sending a wave that rocked the ship. The sailors braced themselves, but the danger passed quickly. Duguyan called out, "Luyu, Ruoshui, decide who will take this spirit ring." Chu Ruoshui glanced at Shen Luyu. "Let Luyu absorb it. This shark matches her adgestive crocodile soul. I'll find another beast." Shen Luyu didn't refuse. She used her spirit skill to draw out the shark's ring, and soon a black spirit ring condensed. The crew waited in silence as she completed the absorption. No one on the ship objected. Without Lin Chuan's timely intervention, they would have been shark food. After the breakthrough and a surge of medicinal power, Shen Luyu pushed through a bottleneck and rose several soul levels. The Sunshine resumed its course. At Lin Chuan's request, they prowled through nearby hunting grounds and found several sea soul beasts whose rings fit the others. The ocean was enormous and soul beasts were abundant. Gathering rings took little effort. Still, hunting and absorbing rings added time. What should have been a 10-day trip stretched into a month. At last, a small, dark shape appeared on the endless horizon. "Stop the ship," someone called. The captain ordered the sails in and dropped anchor. "Are we finally there?" The bored girls perked up, their eyes lighting with renewed interest after the long, monotonous voyage. The captain rushed to Lin Chuan. "Brother, we can take you this far. Beyond this point is Sea God Island's territory. If you set foot without permission, you'll be attacked by the island's guardian beast, a 100,000-year-old soul beast, very aggressive. Please be careful." Lin Chuan reached into his pocket and produced several pouches of gold spirit coins. "You've done well to get us this far. This is the rest of the charter, plus a little extra. My thanks for seeing us here. The captain accepted the heavy pouch with obvious emotion. Thank you, brother. I'll accept it shamelessly. We'll wait here for half a day, the captain added. If the island rejects you, I can take you back. That won't be necessary, Lin Chuan said. He turned to the girls. It's our turn now. Duguyan understood instantly. He brought out the Earth God's order and let it soar, emitting a faint light. Holding hands, the girls felt themselves grow light as a breath. Under Duguyan's control, they rose from the ship and hovered. Lin Chuan spat out the blue-silver bead. Its golden-blue glow cloaked them. One by one, they vanished from sight and flew across the sea under the bead's cover. The captain watched, stunned. What a method! This young man is no ordinary person. Maybe they really can pass the test and leave Sea God Island alive. Beneath the blue-silver bead, Lin Chuan sensed a massive presence far below, a soul beast at least 100,000 years in age. Demon soul great white shark, he thought. Though not as legendary as a titan ape or sky blue python, such a creature was still extraordinarily dangerous in its element. He had no wish to rile it. With the Earth God's order guiding them, they crossed the sea swiftly. Landing on Sea God Island, they touched down steadily and prepared for whatever trials the island would bring. Lin Chuan inhaled sharply and drew the blue-silver bead from his forehead back into his body. The light curtain that had hidden their forms and suppressed their auras vanished at once. Without the bead's concealment, their breaths were revealed immediately. King, a human has broken into Sea God Island. One of the demon soul great white sharks on guard barked the alarm through the clan's special sound transmission. Far below the waves, a vastly larger shark opened its eyes. Someone has come onto Sea God Island again? They've landed quietly, and I didn't sense a thing. I've been derelict. The king's voice carried self-reproach, but there was no time for punishment. Wisdom flashed in its huge eyes, and a spiritual ripple pulsed outward as it surged toward the island. Lin Chuan felt the movement at once. We've been discovered, he murmured. Powerful auras converged in the sky. 7 figures streaked down and stopped before them, each a titled Saint Pillar Douluo with 9 soul rings suspended behind them. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 5 black. Soul pressure rolled off them like a physical weight. From the sea behind them, dozens more demon soul great white sharks broke the surface. Nearly all were 10,000-year beasts, and the leader among them topped 100,000. What a grand welcome, Lin Chuan whispered, amusement in his voice. No sooner had he set foot on the island than he'd drawn the attention of 7 Saint Pillar Douluos and a Leviathan soul beast army. The girls at his back were far less composed. Facing 7 titled Douluos and a 100,000-year soul beast, they tensed and dared not move. The Spirit Hall's fools are so brazen, one of the humans, Sea Dragon Douluo, leader of the 7 sacred pillars, snarled as he stepped forward. A blue dragon tattoo along his back flared, and dragon horns and claws erupted from his body. His broad chest and rippling abs looked like living armor. You dared trespass on Sea God Island. I'll make sure you never leave. Don't even give me a chance to speak, Lin Chuan said helplessly, though the silver moon spear already gleamed in his hand. Then fight, the sea dragon roared. The spear flashed. Water swirled around it as it thrust. Sea Dragon Douluo didn't dodge. His dragon claws slammed down to seize the shaft. The spear tip slid across his palm with the smoothness of a drill and then finally pierced his chest. The water flow vanished, replaced by intense heat. The spear drove in with unstoppable force. There was no ordinary blood. Any that would appear was instantly vaporized by the searing temperature, but Sea Dragon Douluo reeled back, blood misting from his lips. He looked stunned. He had been seriously wounded. Sea Dragon, his companions cried and surged forward to rescue him. But Lin Chuan stood motionless. His eyes glowed red and flames rose around him, a red domain blossoming from his center. Space convulsed. Time itself seemed to hiccup as the domain expanded in a ring hundreds of feet wide. It settled over the 7 titled Douluos like a god's boundary. The Saint Pillar Douluos found their limbs heavy as if weighted, as though invisible vines and water plants had wrapped around them. They could barely move or lift an arm. Inside Lin Chuan's domain, their strength seemed to wane. Every one of them was pinned silent. Can we talk properly now? Lin Chuan asked softly, not attacking. Sea Dragon Douluo's face contorted. Red light flared from him. "Break the demon domain," he shouted, unleashing his own innate domain designed to shatter other domains of the same kind. The exploding lights slammed together with a thunderous impact, only to be interrupted. The force from Sea Dragon's counter-domain struck something unyielding and vanished in an instant. He stared, incredulous. "Impossible," Lin Chuan smirked. "If you have any other tricks, try them. I can wait. We would rather die than be humiliated. The High Priest will avenge us." Sea Dragon Douluo bellowed, prepared to fight to the death. "You don't have to die," a calm, melodious voice said from a distance. As the last syllable fell, the space trembled and a figure appeared. She was about 5'5", wrapped in a bright red robe, long sea-blue hair falling behind her, a soft but noble face. Even the girls behind Lin Chuan, beautiful though they were, seemed to lack her poise. She was Poseidon Douluo Bo-Saixi, the Sea God Island's high priest, and one of its 3 strongest Douluos. Her gentleness belied a presence that made people involuntarily shrink back. In soul power, at least, Lin Chuan felt he was far inferior. "Young man," Bo-Saixi said, meeting his eyes, "I apologize for their recklessness. Will you stop and allow them to withdraw?" The girls' hearts thudded when they heard her voice close at hand. It struck somewhere deep and quickened their pulses. Lin Chuan relaxed, and the red domain faded the moment Bo-Saixi spoke. The 7 titled Douluos exhaled, shoulders loosening, though their gazes remained wary. Lin Chuan produced the Silver Moon Spear, and then, with a hurt gasp, Sea Dragon Douluo spat blood again. "Lingling, heal him," Lin Chuan ordered. Ye Lingling stepped forward without hesitation. With empty hands, she produced the Life Spirit Tang and let its golden-green essence pour into Sea Dragon Douluo. Life energy surged into the gaping wound, knitting flesh and restoring his breath to full strength in moments. "Such rich life energy. Is that the 9-heart begonia?" Bo-Saixi asked, surprised. Lin Chuan shook his head and smiled. "Lingling's martial soul is the life spirit begonia. It evolved from the 9-heart begonia." Bo-Saixi's eyes swept the group and then landed on Ye Lingling and Du Guyan, lingering on the marks on their foreheads. Her gentle face showed a spark of recognition. "A test of the gods. I didn't expect 2 inheritors of the divine line to be here." "Your eye is keen, senior," Lin Chuan replied with a bow. Bo-Saixi's voice softened. "What brings you to Sea God Island?" "We came to undergo the island's test," Lin Chuan said. "Please allow us to take it. We're from Tianshui College of the Tiando Empire, not the Spirit Hall." "They aren't from the Spirit Hall," a Sea Girl Douluo murmured, and the 7 titled Douluos visibly relaxed. "Sea God Island allows outsiders to come ashore and take the test, so long as they're not agents of the Spirit Hall." Lin Chuan smiled wryly at the Sea Girl Douluo. "It's impolite to read other people's minds without permission." The Sea Girl Douluo flinched and blurted an apology. She hadn't actually read Lin Chuan's thoughts. She'd guessed from what she'd heard, but Lin Chuan's quiet warning embarrassed her into promising never to use mind probing on them again. Bo-Saixi didn't refuse their request, but explained the island's rules. "It's dangerous for land soul masters to take the test," she said. "Even if you pass, you may find you cannot leave Sea God Island. Are you sure you still want to proceed?" Shui Binger stepped forward, eyes steady. "We won't back down no matter how dangerous, but we will do our best to meet any conditions required to leave afterward." "Very well, I wish you luck," Bo-Saixi said. She would not dissuade them. Land soul masters could attempt the test if they wished, but she would not let anyone force their way off the island afterward. The dignity of the sea god must be upheld, even at the cost of her life. "Then follow the rules. Aoya, take them to the Seahorse Holy Pillar for the test," Bo-Saixi commanded. "Yes, High Priest," Hippocampus Douluo, Seahorse Douluo, answered respectfully. Though he hadn't seen Bo-Saixi in 10 years, he deferred to the island's supreme figure. Only the sea god himself outranked her. As the group prepared to move, Lin Chuan called after Bo-Saixi, "Senior, won't you wait a moment?" Bo-Saixi paused, turning. Lin Chuan smiled faintly. "Stay to watch the ceremony of obtaining the test. It might surprise you." She hesitated only a beat, then nodded. The 7 Saint Pillar Douluos exchanged startled looks. None of them had expected Lin Chuan to invite Bo-Saixi to stay. "Follow me," Seahorse Douluo said, and led them inland. The demon soul great white sharks that had been patrolling the surface slid back into the depths. The air among the island's trees was fresher and less humid than the shore, a serene, almost otherworldly beauty that outshone the star forest. Past the wood, they came upon a clear inland pond. Though it lay far from the sea, the water in the pond moved as if driven by waves, undulating and restless like the ocean itself. Chapter 181, Shu Binger's 9 Tests of the Sea God. In the center of the pool sat a triangular platform. At its heart rose a strange conical stone pillar, topped with an unusual carving. The pillar was covered in countless intricate lines that pulsed with an invisible, uncanny energy. Seahorse Douluo leapt down and planted himself beneath it. Although the High Priest has allowed you to take the test, he announced, land-based soul masters may only qualify for the Sea God's trials after crossing the sea within the sea and reaching the Seahorse Sacred Pillar. As he finished, a blue halo gathered around him. The Seahorse Sacred Pillar flared to life and sent blue ripples outward, forming a curtain of light that spanned the water. Let us begin. Who will come first? Seahorse Douluo glanced at the girls behind Lin Chuan. Shuiyue could barely contain her excitement. She stepped forward at once. I'll go first. A blue halo wrapped her, forming the shadow of a dolphin that leapt into the pool. Seahorse Douluo waved his hand, and the water instantly surged. Waves rose 4 or 5 feet high, blocking any straightforward route. The tumult stayed confined within the pool, though, loud and violent, but not spilling beyond the water's edges. Spirit beast auras churned in the depths. Shuiyue wasn't phased. With a dolphin's grace she dove, it became a blue streak under the waves, and surged toward the far side. As a water-attributed martial spirit user, she was as effective in the water as any sea spirit master. She moved like a fish among waves. The roaring water couldn't halt her. A column of water rose dramatically as she burst from the pool and landed on the platform. Seahorse Douluo's expression shifted to approval. To break through the sea at such a young age, your martial spirit may be a bit weak, but your skill is excellent. You are qualified to take the Sea God's test. His gaze toward Shuiyue grew gentler. The 6 other Sacred Pillar Douluos showed similar surprise. Shuiyue smiled and waved at everyone. Lin Chuan watched the lively scene and smiled warily. Yue succeeded. Binger and the rest, go one by one. Binger, remember to help Shuiwu. Understood, the girls chorused and began to prepare. The next round went smoothly. Most of the girls had crocodile or fish martial spirits and were natural swimmers. No matter how fierce the waves got, they cut through them without trouble. Soon only Shui Binger and Shui Wu remained. Shui Wu, you go with her, Lin Chuan prompted. Shui Binger's martial spirit unfurled like a vast phoenix behind her. She raised her hand and a blast of cold shot out. The water's surface froze instantly, turning much of the pool into glistening ice. Calmly, they walked up to the central platform. Seahorse Douluo looked astonished. An ice phoenix martial spirit at the top tier. He had already had more surprises than he could count today. Yanzi, Lingling, come next, he added. Duguyan and Ye Lingling took their places and stepped in together. Something even stranger happened. Water appeared under Lin Chuan's feet. His steps created ripples, but he did not sink. When the fierce waves rushed at him, an unseen force stopped them. The water simply flowed away. The action was so calm and controlled, it made the 7 Sacred Pillar Douluo's heart skip a beat. Even Poseidon Douluo Bosaishi watched, astonished. What a supreme domain power, he murmured. No wonder I suppressed you earlier. This domain is terrifying. With such a power, the usual advantage sea spirit masters have on the water vanished. Even at sea, a sea soul master would be at a disadvantage against Lin Chuan, a thought Bo Saichi found chilling. Fortunately, Lin Chuan wasn't from Wuhan Palace. Otherwise, Poseidon Island could have been in danger. In moments, Lin Chuan and the others reached the Seahorse Sacred Pillar platform. Seahorse Douluo opened his mouth as if to speak, but ended up simply nodding. You have all passed. Come stand before the Sacred Pillar. Binger, you first, Lin Chuan said unexpectedly. Shui Binger hesitated only a moment, then stepped forward and stood behind Seahorse Douluo. Seahorse Douluo raised his hands in a ceremonial gesture and channeled blue light into the Sacred Pillar. A beam of assessment light slid down the pillar and focused on Shui Binger. The blue glow bathed her. The pillar's engraved lines lit up and climbed like a ladder of light, blue, white, yellow, purple, each color flashing in quick succession. Then, to everyone's surprise, the light went black, yet kept rising. Black deepened into blood red, which shot to the apex of the pillar. A sound like the ocean's deep cry rang out. 7 red pillars converged and exploded into a radiant golden light. "What's happening?" The 7 sacred pillar Douluos murmured in shock. They had guarded the pillar for years and had never seen anything like it. Bosaichi drew a slow breath, tamped down his surprise, and looked to Lin Chuan. "Did you know this would happen?" Lin Chuan smiled and nodded. "We've already visited the other 2 assessment sites. We know the levels of the gods' tests. Yanzi and Lingling also received the 9th test." "Are you certain this child can get the sea god's 9th trial?" Bosaichi asked. "Of course. Binger has been recognized by the heart of the sea god. You should know what that implies." Bosaichi's expression shifted as understanding dawned. So the lost heart of the sea god had been taken inland, and by this group. Perhaps it was fate. As they spoke, the golden light descended and burned into Shui Binger's brow, leaving a bright golden trident mark on her pale skin. Seahorse Douluo blinked and then recovered, still a little dazed. Bosaichi's expression was complicated, but he composed himself and addressed Seahorse Douluo. "Oh yeah, pass along my order. From now on, they are guests of Sea God Island. No one may neglect or offend them. Do not assist them in completing the trial, but try to meet their other needs." "Yes, High Priest." The 7 sacred pillar Douluos saluted in unison. Bosaichi then turned back to Shui Binger. "Child, I have waited 100 years, and finally waited for you. In the future on Sea God Island, you need answer to no one, not even me." Shui Binger was stunned and looked to Lin Chuan. He gave a gentle nod, and she steadied herself before replying with a small, determined nod. Bosaichi smiled. "I believe you can pass Poseidon's test. If you need anything, ask Oya. But remember, you must complete at least one of Poseidon's 9 tests each year, or all your achievements here will be wasted. Tomorrow, come to the Poseidon Temple. We will discuss the details." With that, Bosaichi's body shimmered with a red light, and he vanished as if he had never been there. Seahorse Douluo's voice returned, this time deferential. "Honored guests, please step forward, one at a time." Shui Binger stepped back, and the others came forward. Thanks to the elixirs Lin Chuan had given them, many of the girls had been reborn and no longer as they once were. Unlike the stimulants Ye Lingling and Du Guyan had used to evolve their martial souls, Lin Chuan's pills had boosted soul power directly by at least 7 levels for everyone, 10 for the weaker ones like Chiruo Shui. Most were near level 60 now, with talent amplified accordingly. The 4 main factors that determine test level, age, talent, martial soul strength, and soul power, had all been boosted. With the pills, nearly everyone had become a genius, and the assessment lights reflected that. Shu Yuer, Shen Liuyu, Gu Qingbo, and Chu Roshui received the Black Level 5 test. Yu Hairo and Shui Wu were assigned Black Level 6. To Lin Chuan's surprise, Juju King not only qualified, but earned a higher level than in the original record. She leapt straight to the top Level 7 test. Considering her youth, the elixir, and her soul power near the 70s after the Earth God trial, her ranking made sense. Wonderful. Du Guyan beamed, genuinely happy for them all. Lin Chuan breathed a quiet sigh of relief and smiled. All their efforts had not been in vain. Chapter 182, Ocean Invincibility. The girls were elated, but the 7 Saint Pillar Douluo's faces were far more serious. None of them really knew what Shui Binger and the others had done to trigger the Black Level assessment. All of those girls were at least Black Level already. What kind of sinners had they committed to earn this? "Don't celebrate too soon," Lin Chuan warned. His tone was grave. "A Black Level assessment brings greater rewards, but the difficulty rises sharply. You'll only get anything if you pass. If you fail, you get nothing." He explained the rules. For land-based soul masters, a Black Level assessment must be completed within a year. Only after passing can they receive the rewards and attempt the next test. If the time limit is exceeded or someone tries to flee, the sea god's mark on the forehead will detonate and wipe out the participants. In short, a Black Level assessment ends in one of 2 ways: success or death. The girls sobered instantly. The Black Level assessment wasn't just an opportunity, It was a lethal trial. If they didn't give it everything, they wouldn't just fail to improve, they might lose their lives. Brother Chuan, we won't let you down, Shui Binger said coldly, but her eyes were steady. She knew becoming a god was far from easy, but she believed she could pass the test. If the test were easy, it would be boring, Shuiyue added, clenching her fists. Pride and fierce determination set her features. The other girls didn't speak, but their gazes never wavered. Lin Chuan's expression softened into a smile. Do your best. I believe you can succeed. He couldn't stay on Sea God Island with them. He could only trust in them. They had taken the marrow-cleansing pill and other enhancements. Their talents and strength were undeniable. As long as they didn't slack off, passing the test ought to be possible. Since you've arrived, we'll leave tomorrow, Lin Chuan continued. We'll send Yanzi back to the Earth Temple for the test. Shuiyuan City needs us as well. The girls looked reluctant, but this schedule had been decided long ago, so they didn't resist. Also, I'll leave the blue-silver bead with you, Lin Chuan said, producing the bead and offering it to Shui Binger. Binger, try channeling your spirit into it. Shui Binger nodded and poured her spirit into the bead. Lin Chuan removed the restrictions and allowed her to imprint her spiritual mark in it. Though the bead still belonged to him and would be weakened in her hands, it would at least provide them with a safeguard. Dear guests, please follow me, the seahorse Douluo called. Shui Binger bowed slightly. Sorry to trouble you, senior. She glanced at Lin Chuan. Brother Chuan, we'll go first. Go, Lin Chuan replied with a smile. He watched the 8 girls follow Seahorse Douluo deeper into the island. Their future would be decided in the coming year. Whether they soared or fell would depend entirely on themselves. He didn't look away until their figures vanished from sight. I'd like to see the High Priest. Is that convenient? Lin Chuan asked the senior Douluos. Of course, Sea Dragon Douluo answered without hesitation. Bosaishi had already said these people were guests of Sea God Island. Anything that didn't help them pass the test could be granted. Hainu, take the guests to the Sea God Temple, Sea Dragon Douluo ordered. Hainu Douluo, Sea Girl Douluo, rolled her eyes in annoyance. Of course they'd pass the duty to her. She was one of the 7 Saint Pillars, and technically superior to the others in rank. Refusal wasn't an option. Got it, she snapped, glaring at the others. 3 honored guests, please follow me. Thank you, Lin Chuan said, and followed Sea Girl Douluo toward the Sea God Temple. As they penetrated deeper into the island, the scenery grew more gorgeous. They passed many Sea Soul Masters in various colored uniforms. When Sea Girl Douluo passed, they all stopped to salute. The status of the 7 Saint Pillar Douluos on Sea God Island was unmistakable. At last, they arrived at the temple, a massive structure guarded by towering stone pillars carved with sea creatures, some familiar, others unrecognizable. Sea Girl Douluo saluted at the door. High Priest, 3 honored guests request an audience. Bring them in, Bosaishi's voice replied from within. Inside, the main hall had no windows, wrapped in shadow. The High Priest sat at the center, slowly opening his eyes. Child, what do you wish to discuss? Lin Chuan bowed. We'll be leaving Sea God Island soon. Please look after my companions. Bosaichi nodded, his voice even. Someone has triggered the 9 tests of the Sea God. That could mean she is the next Sea God, hence the island's role in administering the test. I'll give them the greatest aid I'm allowed, but if they can't pass the trials themselves, there's nothing I can do. Lin Chuan understood and nodded gratefully. Bosaichi's willingness to assist was enough. I have another request, Lin Chuan said. Bosaishi's eyes narrowed in surprise. The Sea Girl Douluo next to him tensed. Are you going to challenge me? The High Priest asked. It's only a contest, Lin Chuan replied with a smile. I want to experience the power of a peerless Douluo. Please teach me. He had not had a true fight in a long time. Since mastering the mysteries of all things and passing the God test, few opponents had been worth the effort. Ordinary titled Douluos were beneath him, and even super Douluos hadn't pushed him. Finally meeting a peerless Douluo like Bosaichi, Lin Chuan felt the urge to test himself. Bosaichi regarded him for a long moment, then smiled. Very well, follow me. Thank you, Lin Chuan said. A thrill of anticipation rose in him. Who was Bosaichi? One of the 3 most powerful people alive, a 99-level peerless Douluo, and the High Priest of Sea God Island. Commanding the sea's power, invincible within the ocean, this was the sort of opponent every warrior dreamed of facing. They ascended Sea God Mountain together. To Lin Chuan's surprise, aside from Seahorse Douluo, the other 5 members of the 7 Saint Pillar Douluos had also gathered: Sea Dragon, Sea Spear, Starfish, Ama, and 2 others. Sea Girl Douluo had likely notified them. Bo Saichi glanced at them but did not send them away. Why would the High Priest agree to a duel? Sea Spear Douluo asked. He asked for it, Bo Saichi replied. The youth made the challenge, and I consented. Do you think he could be the High Priest's match? One of the Pillar Douluos scoffed. They looked at Lin Chuan with disbelief. Sea Dragon folded his arms. I admit the boy is strong, but there is no one on Sea God Island who can oppose the High Priest unless they are a god. The others agreed. They knew Bo Saichi's true strength. The High Priest's ocean invincibility wasn't an empty boast. Even those Lin Chuan had subdued easily before were no measure against Bo Saichi. I'll watch, Sea Dragon said coldly. The High Priest will not lose. Du Guyan and Ye Lingling stayed well back. Lin Chuan moved forward alone. A figure in red stood at the foot of the mountain, expression solemn now where it had once been playful. Since it's a contest, Bo Saichi murmured, we'll go all out. Lin Chuan shook his head. Please don't hold back. Use the full power of the sea and the Sea God Temple. Bo Saichi's brow furrowed. Are you sure? I'm sure. Teach me, High Priest. The High Priest's expression softened. If you ask me to give all my strength, I won't hold back. If anything goes wrong, don't blame me. Don't worry, Lin Chuan said. As long as Lingling is here, she can save me. Bo Saichi glanced at Ye Lingling and understood. Then begin. Be careful. A pale blue light flared from Bo Saichi. Space twisted, and suddenly they were above the ringed sea. Blue currents erupted, and the water began to churn violently. The sea's pressure pressed down like a physical weight. Lin Chuan's eyes narrowed. He summoned the wind and thunder wings. With a single flap, he rose to the High Priest's height. He drew the Night Shadow double swords. A razor-sharp sword force condensed and stabbed out, slicing into the oncoming soul pressure and coiling toward Bo Saichi. Bo Saichi responded, shaking their shoulders to fend it off. Whatever calm they projected, it was strained. The presence they released was terrifying. Lin Chuan felt the same sensation he had only ever encountered from Qian Daoliu in Tongchen, an oppressive, absolute force. No wonder the boy had sounded humble earlier. He was not arrogant at all. The blue light intensified, water energies roaring like a storm. Seawater in the ringed sea twisted into innumerable jets and currents, launched into the air. The pressure was so oppressive, ordinary Ford, titled Douluos wouldn't dare move. I'm coming, Lin Chuan cried. He vanished in an instant, his wind and thunder wings propelling him forward. The spectators on the temple steps were stunned. None of them had seen him disappear. His speed exceeded their perception. Are all land soul masters this terrifying now? Starfish Douluo said, voice slack with disbelief. They had underestimated him. This was merely the tip of the iceberg. You really dared to attack the High Priest, Sea Dragon said grudgingly. That courage alone is admirable. They exchanged looks and shook their heads. Even if he's bold, I still don't think he can match Bo Saichi. Not even the Haotian sect's leader or the Wuhun Hall's great enshrinement master could. Still, Amadoluo murmured, eyes bright with curiosity, I want to see what lies above the High Priest's power. Maybe only a god could beat him. As the murmurs rippled through the crowd, Lin Chuan raised his blade and flew straight at Bo Saichi. The gap closed in a heartbeat, sword flashing, 2 forces colliding over the boiling ringed sea.